Welcome to another edition of John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast, the only wrestling podcast that brings you back 30 years with vintage audio featuring some of the biggest names of that time. The Pro Wrestling Spotlight covered all the news stories and breaking developments that happened in real time, and now we get to relive those moments right here on this podcast. Today, we're going to break format. And this is going to be a bonus episode of our show, as I'm going to reunite right here today with somebody who played a very big part in those first several months on WNYG in 1989, who was on the show back then almost every week. I am referring to ex-wrestler, former Long Islander, and a dear friend who I contacted recently, none other than Al Schaefer, also known as Broadway Sonny Blaze. We'll bring him on in just a minute. I do want to tell everybody out there, if you haven't already, this is the best time ever to become a patron. Patreon.com/John Arezzi. All of these shows that we're going to be reviewing with Sonny Blaze, they're all available in their entirety. All the archives, Patreon.com/John Arezzi. $5 a month gets you in the door. And, of course, there are other levels. If you want other vintage content, if you want to be guest on this show, if you want vintage wrestling magazines, if you want to see my old 8mm films, just go to patreon.com/John Arezzi and check out what level works best for you. And if you're in the market for some wrestling memorabilia, also rock and roll memorabilia, old concert photos, Beatles stuff, New York Mets stuff, DVDs, you got to go to ebay.com and look for Matt Memories, because there's a lot of stuff up there right now, and some of which you may want to have for your very own. I want to make a quick announcement. Once again, I'll be up in New Jersey, and that'll be at 80s WrestleCon. That is promoted by Tommy Fierro, who was on this show a few weeks ago. That is Saturday, May the 6th. It takes place at Menin Sports Arena, Morristown, New Jersey. Doors open 11 a.m. I will be there with my book, Matt Memories. We'll have some posters, T-shirts, vintage wrestling items. Also appearing, Bret the Hitman Hart, Dory Funk Jr., Wendy Richter, Powers of Pain, Dr. D. David Schultz, Demolition, The Killer Bees, Tony Atlas, Tommy Rich, Nikita Koloff, Magnum TA, Midnight Express, the original Midnight Express, Papa Shango, Jerry Briscoe, many, many, many more. Go to 80swrestlingcon.com for more information. And right now, I just want to say hello to Marsh real fast. Marsh, how are you doing there? Getting ready for WrestleMania, I assume.
I'm doing good, John.
Well, we have a special one today. I know you're getting ready to go on a big trip to WrestleMania next week.
Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't done one of the big WrestleMania weeks ever, so this is going to be cool.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I know you're really busy, and today's show is going to be a very special one. We've pulled clips. We have our special guest in the waiting room. We also have a special surprise for our special guest on the telephone. It will be none other than Donny Laible, who'll join us in a few minutes. So I am really looking forward to this show. So, Marsh, I want to thank you for all your hard work, and I want to bring on none other than Broadway Sonny Blaze.
John, it's so great to be here with you again, my old friend. I miss you.
This has been a long time coming. You know, since we started this podcast, literally, I mean, we're in our fourth year. We started it actually in 2021, I believe, or actually 2019. So we've been doing this for a while. And those first few years, everyone is like, you were such a big part of the show. And it's fabulous to see you after all this time.
Same here, John.
It's been, and I know you're out of the wrestling business. You're down in Florida. We'll get into all of that, but we are going to have some fun today, my friend.
How'd you avoid getting any gray hair?
Yeah, we go back to the very, very early days at WNYG, man. You were there right from the beginning.
I loved every minute of it. I really did. Bruce, the producer, teaching me some stuff. You teaching me everything, you know, and the opportunity was just so wonderful. Thank you.
Well, hey, we're going to have fun with this today. And before we, I want to bring Donny. You remember Donny Laible, right?
Yeah.
Well, Donny's joining us. Donny, are you there?
I am there. I am here.
Say hello to Broadway Sonny Blaze. Al Schaefer, also known as Broadway Sonny Blaze, man.
Oh my gosh. I'm going back in time. Wait a minute. Sonny Blaze. All right. Good times. Happy times.
You remember Donny, right?
Of course he remembers me. If I remember correctly, when we left Venezuela, I was sitting right next to Sonny on the plane.
Did he? I don't know if he went to Venice. Did you go to Venezuela?
No, never been to Venezuela.
I was on a plane with Sonny Blaze somewhere.
You were at Sunny Beach.
That's it.
The blonde guy.
No, different Sonny.
A different Sonny.
I'm the good-looking one.
Exactly. And he's still good looking. But, Donny was so instrumental, obviously. I mean, my right-hand man. He did all the news capsules every week. He did tributes. He provided guests. Yeah. And he's always been there. And he was there in the early days of the show. And one of the things that Donny did best was when we would bring on a guest, he would write a tribute up because he's such a wonderful journalist and has been for many years. So when I told him that we were going to have a reunion, that we were reuniting, I said, can you do a little something on Sonny Blaze? And he said yes. And so right now, here's one of those patented Donny Laible tributes. And this time it's for Broadway Sonny Blaze. Donny, take it away.
I am ready because the name Sonny Blaze was a familiar figure on World Wrestling Federation television in the late 1980s and early 90s. As an enhancement performer, or jobber as others would say, Blaze made the good look great. A student of 1960s WWF opening card wrestler Mark Tendler and training partner to Mick Foley, Blaze worked WWF cards as Broadway Sonny Blaze and often was booked with the promotion's biggest draws, singles and tag matches on TV. In 1989, Blaze co-hosted the Pro Wrestling Spotlight and appeared on the program regularly. In 1993, at the PWS Weekend of Champions convention, Blaze took the lead in booking a majority of the matches on the Super card. Throughout the Northeast, from Massachusetts to Maryland, Blaze appeared on numerous independent shows, including the Savoldis, ICW, alongside other people just starting up in the business, as in Taz, Tommy Dreamer, and Paulie Dangerously. Wrestling reputations were built in the ring from cooperation pros like Sonny Blaze.
All right, man. That's kind of cool. There you go. That's a nice little tribute.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Patent it, baby. That's it. It's Sonny Blaze, original right there.
And what part of Florida are you in, Al?
It's in the Tampa Bay area. It's a little bit west of Tampa. It's called Oldsmar.
Oldsmar. Donny, are you familiar with that now that you're down there in the Bradenton area?
I'm 45 miles south of Tampa in Manatee County. So that's probably at least 50 miles from me north. But one thing we have in common, traffic.
Traffic
is everywhere.
Well, maybe someday I'll join you guys down there, but I'm going to head over to the East Coast and hang out in Port St. Lucie. That's where my beloved Mets are. Dunedin, right? Dunedin with the Toronto Blue Jays now.
Well, I'm about one town over from Dunedin.
Oh, you're Sonny's one town over from Dunedin, and we all you're still a baseball lover.
Yep,
I know you were a Yankee fan. Weren't you a Yankee fan?
Forgive me, John. I like professional baseball. Yeah.
There you go. Well,
hey,
Mets fan here. Go ahead.
But the greatest ball player to ever play never played for the Yankees and did play for the Mets. In my opinion, Willie Mays.
There you go.
Yeah.
All righty.
I'll let you make an argument for Ted Williams, but Willie Mays.
Yeah, Willie is say hey kid, just what a wonderful player he was. Donny is down there covering baseball with the he was covering spring training with the Pirates organization all spring, and we talk baseball 2 or 3 times a week now, me, and I call him the kid to this day because I will never call him anything else. I mean, he is the kid.
They got to put the bases back the right size.
Before I ask Sonny my question, John, every time I walk in a Pirates clubhouse, I think of Ralph Kiner calling. He never said the Pirates. He always would say the Pittsburgh organization. So whenever I go in there and I see his name on the wall, it makes me think of Ralph and calling the Met games. Sonny, I have a question for you. When you look back, you could see tapes of yourself, and isn't it so wonderful that we have those kind of things now, where it's so much easier to look at things, and you see yourself in the graphic there with the WWF logo and your name. You really still must get a rush that, wow, I did that. I was in front of the crowds. I was in the ring with the big names, and I was there when it was taking off. You still have to get charged up, don't you?
You know what, Donnie? I really do. And I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity. It is fun. And I had tremendous opportunities. And yeah, to be with the largest wrestling organization in the world, in any way, it was magnificent. It was fantastic. And ironically, some of the matches I look back at, and I'm like, wow, that was not a bad match, for television. Certainly it was never competitive, but it wasn't a bad, I felt like I did my job and I did it well. And I take a great deal of pride in that.
And let me ask you this too. You must have, consciously or not, you must have been, I don't want to say nervous, but something along those lines where all the TV cameras going, the lights going, the music going, and the fans going crazy. And you have to remember what you have to do, how much time you have, that your mind must have been racing, that like to comprehend and contain everything you're supposed to know.
Well, Donnie, I'm going to tell you, I was blessed with so many opportunities. So I'm that guy that can comfortably say I had every opportunity. I didn't have the talent, but I never got over that feeling of, like you're saying, that stage fright, if you will. Mm-hmm. Never got over it.
Yeah, that's a hard thing. I mean, some people can get over it and some not. It's just when you're in there with the bright lights and the superstars, yep, and you know what you're supposed to do. But I mean, Donnie was a performer, and he did a lot of managing for Killer Kowalski, and he performed well. I mean, it's just, and for me, I just bullshitted my way in the ring for a couple of matches, and I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. So, so I was I nervous? Yeah, but you did it many, many times, dozens of times, with the biggest stars in the business.
But I never got over that, and I wish I could. Like, I didn't want to play to the crowd or anything. I just wanted to do and get it over with.
Yeah,
and it's just one of those things. Not everyone's built for it.
And you know what? You know what you could say? You know what I could say? You know what Don can say? Not very many people had the opportunity. When you look at the masses, and how many people actually got the opportunity to do that, to go into the ring with Hall of Famers like you did, like in my short 2-match career, I did.
Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah. And, Peter Maivia, Strongbow, whatever. And then Donnie, of course, working with Killer Kowalski and working with Hall of Famers himself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a cool thing. We could say like, hey, we did it. We did it. And, here I am all these years later, still talking about it and talking and reminiscing about wrestling. And it's always
wonderful friendships I've made.
Yeah.
Over the years, wonderful memories.
Yeah.
I stay in touch with, you remember Big Vito LaGrasso?
I do. Yeah.
I still stay in touch with him. He's living over in Orlando. And he thanks me because I brought him to TV, and that sort of brought him into WWF and got things going for him.
Yeah, he was a Skull Von Crush, right?
Correct. Yeah, he played the German Skull Von Crush.
Yeah, because he was Vince Russo's partner on the radio for many years.
Oh, was he?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But, so I stay in touch with some guys just by accident and run into others. But wonderful memories. I was either The Undertaker's very first or second match. That the TV taping was Tuesday. He made his appearance Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And, to be in there with he, by the way, if you ever see that clip, the flying clothesline, he clears me. He's so big. He reaches back. It's not a clothesline. He has to grab me by the throat and bring me down.
Wow.
He almost completely cleared me. He was gigantic.
Yeah.
Sonny, if you could do it over again, what would there be one thing if they said, okay, you could change this, that's it? What would that be?
If I could, I probably, if I could change anything, it would be a couple things, really, Donnie. One, I would hit the gym much harder. Once I got injured, it got hard to work out, but I would want a much more solid physique. But also, I would have spoken with the chief. I would have spoken with Renee. I would have spoken with Tony Gurria. I would have spoken with Pat Patterson. I would have spoken with Mr. McMahon if I had to, because somebody would have known how to get me over the stage fright, I'm sure. But I never wanted to tell them about it. So my heart was 160 beats a minute by the time I got to the ring. I was, I just wish I could have gotten over that.
Well, we have a lot to reminisce about today. Donnie, my friend, you, as always, I do it every time you appear here.
Thank you.
It brings back the memories. I mean,
sure.
And we talk several times a week, but when you come on the show like this, and we'll bring you back soon, as we do, I mean, it floods my mind with great memories and just how important you've been in my life. And I want to thank you again.
Much.
I want to thank you for coming on. And
the key is not to grow up. That's the big key. So, and I have it.
That is right. The kid will never grow up.
Thank you so much. And Sonny, it was great to hear your voice. And right now I'm picturing you on being introduced on WWF TV. And it brings me back to a wonderful time in my life. Thank you for the memories. Good night, guys.
Thank you, Donnie.
Good night, Don.
I hope everything's well.
That was great. Donny
John,
Laible, everybody.
That was great.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he does. And I felt that after all this time, and the first time you appearing here after many, many years and many times, you got to bring Sonny Blaze on. And it wasn't until I saw that podcast that you did recently, and it was a Pro Wrestling Zone podcast, and I saw that, and I was like, there he is. And I immediately reached out. And we had a nice chat a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, you got to come on and do this. This is going to be fun.
Oh, I was trying so hard not to embarrass myself, which I hope I don't do today, too.
It was a great interview.
Thank you.
Was a great, and I learned so many things about you that I didn't know. And we'll get into that stuff, like the ECW stuff, the Paulie stuff. I mean, there's just you have a really cool story of what you did in the wrestling business and how hard you tried. And, you and I, when I was getting on the air with WNYG and Pro Wrestling Spotlight in 1989, once the show was getting ready to go on the air, I started reaching out to people, and I got a hold of Mark Tendler because he was running shows locally on Long Island. I think maybe there's an opportunity to have him advertise, or who knows what. I was just getting my feet wet, just getting started. And I spoke to Mark, and he invited me down to his training center, which was in his house, in his garage.
Yes.
And he said he wanted to introduce me to two of his top students. And I was expecting, to go in there and see a ring or whatever. But why don't you kind of explain to us what the Mark Tendler training facility was?
Okay, the training facility was his garage. It was half the garage. There was a wrestling mat on the ground, and the ropes were right along the wall. So when you hit the ropes, you were actually hitting the walls, except for on one side, he used the springs from the garage door. And there was a big pole right in the middle, the pole that...
I remember the pole. I remember that pole.
I remember that pole very well. If you climbed up on a rope, your head would hit the beams of the garage, and But again, even that, other than the fact that I had never been in a ring, so the first time I was in a ring, it was weird hitting the ropes because I thought I was going to tumble out. Honestly, John, I relish that as well, because that's, of course, where I met Cactus Jack, Mick Foley.
Yeah.
And Cactus is the one that really worked with us, and Lou Fabiano, who was a journeyman wrestler. He was trained, I believe, by the Samoans.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a very accomplished worker. Cactus, trained by Dominic DiNucci. But I don't think you can train Cactus. Cactus, I'm sure Dominic did some stuff, but you can't train Cactus to be Cactus.
Yeah, the basics are the basics, but you develop your persona, and to this day, when we had Mick on last year, and we started playing old clips for him, his evolution. He used to come on the show a lot, and we'll talk about that because you're the guy that brought him to the studio for the very first time. But he used to practice his promos on Pro Wrestling Spotlight, and he was cringing hearing some of the early stuff because he hadn't developed his full persona yet. It was an evolution over many years. But those were magical days, man. And I remember meeting Tendler. I remember going down to the training facility and seeing you and Chris Michaels working out on the mat, and then Mark was promoting a show, and I invited Mark actually to come down. I believe it was even on the first Pro Wrestling Spotlight on April the 9th, 1989, and he came in with you and Chris, but put you guys and the football player Brian Donahue was there too, because that was the guy who was really trying to push, former New York Jet guy. So you were in the control room, I guess, with Bruce Jacobs, and I was like, and Mark brought a few other guys in, and Al Michaels, I'm sorry, Al Schaefer, Al Schaefer in the other room. I didn't even call you Sonny Blaze because I didn't even know that was kind of the name you were using. So what we're going to do right now in our first clip, I want to bring Marsh on. Marsh, we have our first clip.
Yeah.
And this was actually, I believe it was April 30th, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been April 30th of 89.
Yep.
And
show number 4.
Show number 4. So this was actually the very first time you were there speaking in the studio. And I thought it would be kind of a cool way for everyone to go back 1989 to 34 years.
Jeez.
And hear your first appearance ever on Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
With another notable first.
Win a group of wrestling photos that I took way back in the 70s, and also a certificate, $100, black and white in color. Marty, now you're lucky you're still in the studio. David, why don't you take him outside and work him over a little bit? We were just joined incidentally.
Hey, Mumbles, take a walk.
we were just joined in the studio by Broadway Sonny Blaze, who also appeared on the big program the other night. And Sonny, come on over here for a second. We'd like to just talk to you briefly, and you did win your match, and quite handily, I might add.
My first professional victory.
Your first professional victory in the ranks of professional wrestling, and you must feel pretty good about that.
Well, I'm still in shock. Excuse me. I was supposed to get a rematch with my first professional defeat, Lou Fabiano.
Right.
Booking error.
He was nowhere to be seen that night.
Through no fault of his own, really.
You sure it wasn't fear?
I don't think so. He would have been there. I was looking forward to reversing the decision and hopefully getting a victory against him. But as it turned out, I took on Mike Sundance, and I could have been a little more aggressive, I felt, but I was cautious, overcautious.
That's the modesty of a newcomer, I guess.
And the advice you gave me before the match helped a lot.
Well, who knows? Maybe someday we're down the line. We could work something out together, and I'll make you rise to success as well. The cream always rises to the top, and the Power Twins are on their way, and Broadway Sonny Blaze could be right back.
And we are the cream, John. Don't forget that.
I'm afraid to say anything else.
I certainly won't mind having David standing behind me.
Well, I think
Have to stand in front of me.
He's an ominous figure, to tell you the truth.
Stands in front of me, you wouldn't see me.
But Broadway also noticed that a lot of the young girls in there were kind of screaming for you, so that must make you feel pretty good.
Oh, well, I'm accustomed to that completely.
Oh, okay.
That happens in malls, on the street, driving my car. Everywhere I go. That's nothing new.
Well, we're going to look forward to seeing you in some upcoming matches in the Long Island, New York area, and best of luck to you in your career, and congratulations on the victory the other night.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations on your show.
Thank you very
really,
much,
it's an
Broadway.
excellent show.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure.
But at this point in the show, I should call you Al or Sonny. I'm going to call you whatever you want me to call you. But
Call me Sonny.
I'll call you Sonny.
Yeah.
We'll go back.
Yeah.
I mean, it was at this point in the show. Now, I had just managed the Power Twins on that Mark Tendler show. And this show at the time was all kayfabe. It wasn't any insider stuff. So It was angles and crazy zaniness in the studio. And if you remember, the twins would show up almost every week and just intimidate.
Oh, yeah. They were terrifying. They took up the whole booth.
They did. And they were just so obnoxious to everybody.
And like I said, I don't know what's the character, what's the gimmick, and what's the life. Larry, the reason I actually used Dave's name when I said I want David to stand behind me was because Larry didn't talk to me. He just kept staring at me. I remember.
He was always the quiet one of the two.
And, you
still
think
is.
that they're going to bite your face or something. It's like at any minute they could lose their mind and just break you in half.
I legitimately, this is shoot, I was always intimidated in those early days with them because you didn't know what they were going to do.
No. And, they had a reputation. You heard some stories about their training and how they discouraged some guys. And, oh, my gosh, if you weren't going to be intimidated by them, you had to be made of steel,
Yeah. And there were bouncers and they were kind of like enforcers. They worked with David Schultz. So they were tough. They were tough guys, man.
Oh yeah, they were legit tough, and they weren't all that friendly.
No, they're still not. I've had them on the show. I saw them in Vegas. When I go to Vegas once a year for the Cauliflower Alley reunion, I get together with them, and they still have not ever taken a photograph without sticking their middle finger up. And we are gonna try to do a reunion here in future weeks where it'll be another special bonus episode where we'll bring you on, we'll bring the twins on, we'll bring Bruce Jacobs on, and we'll just kind of have this really early day reunion from the beginning and origins of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
Remember the movie Ocean's 11?
Yeah, because they were in that. Yeah.
Yes, and when I saw them, I was like, man, that is how they are. That's exactly. They don't say anything. They just stare you down. They scare the living hell out of you.
Or they insult you.
That's when they like you.
Yeah.
That's when you've gotten in, is when they're actually just like verbally assaulting you.
Yeah. Did you ever work against them?
You know what? I think I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure between those shows from Mitch Seinfeld and Tommy D and Mark, I'm sure that your paths have probably crossed in the ring.
But they said something to me once. It was on the Tommy D show, and it was in Brooklyn somewhere. I forget. But that night, I worked a few matches, but one of them was with Ivan Koloff. And I didn't even know I was supposed to wrestle Ivan Koloff. I thought I was wrestling John Studd. I'm in the ring. Out walks Mr. Koloff with Johnny Valiant. And I looked at the ring announcer. I'm like, I looked at the referee, excuse me. Am I here for the wrong match? No, there's been a change. Okay. I didn't even know Ivan Koloff was in the building, but I know I'm okay. He's in more danger than I am because he's the pro.
Yeah.
So anyway, he gave me a lot of that match. And of course, just listen to what he has to say. Just do what Mr. Koloff says. But after the match, David and Larry said, he made you look like a world champion. And now I realized they were flattering Mr. Koloff. Mr. Koloff could wrestle with a broom, the old expression. But that I listened well enough that I didn't make Mr. Koloff look bad. He made me look good. Yeah. That's all I was concerned with. And but
yeah, that's not something the Power Twins would do.
Well, that's what they did. They actually said it.
Well, they said it, but they wouldn't do it in the ring. Let's say to give you and make you look like $1 million because their style was a little bit different in the ring.
They squished me like a bug.
Yeah. But I mean, our friendship began to develop. Used to come down to the studio and sit in, and before you know it, like you're there every week. And I remember going out to the diner after every show. And we'd have coffee and we'd smoke cigarettes and we'd have, dinners. And we just kind of developed this really cool bond and friendship. And I knew how hard you were trying to break in. And for me, it was just kind of like, you were just such a nice guy. You were just a nice person, a good, really down to earth person that, and I was finding my way on the radio, and you were finding your way as a young performer in the business. And so I think that's why our dynamic kind of clicked a little bit,
And we were both extremely close to our mothers.
That is very true.
You took wonderful care of your mother, John.
Yeah.
And that's going to lead to a personal story that I wanted to share with you. Okay. You're not going to remember this, and I might well up, so forgive me. But my mother passed away on January 30th, 1990. I don't expect you to remember that date, but I'm sure you remember it. And you, of course, came to her wake. And you brought a magazine. It was the very first time I was ever in a magazine. It wasn't one of Bill Apter and Bob Smith's magazines, but it was a Tommy D show. It was actually the same show where I wrestled Ivan Koloff. I wrestled Bam Bam Bigelow the same night. And he has me pressed over his head. It was just a picture with my name. And you brought that, and you were tearing up, and you said your mother would have loved this. And I've never forgotten that, John.
Well,
and that's not to bring this down. That's a celebration.
No. I mean, I appreciate you even mentioning it. Obviously, I remember when your mom passed, and I remember going to the wake. I don't remember the magazine, so you bringing that back into my memory, it kind of jars it a little bit. And the fact that it's remained with you after all these years means a lot to me.
But it really has. I don't forget things that were done,
Yeah.
And I try to focus only on good things, by the way. But that was one of those things where there was terrible grief. You know how I felt.
Yep.
And there was that moment where there was just something that lightened the load, as happens. And, you were there, you got me through all of that. And as a matter of fact, I believe you dedicated the next show to my mother.
Yeah.
And that means an awful lot, John. As we get older, that's what we have.
Right. We have the memories, and you remember the good things. You try to, not dwell on the bad things. We all went through a lot of stuff back then, and that's what life is. I mean, it's a roller coaster. It's good times, it's bad times, it's all of that. But yeah, when you could. Well,
I'm going to encourage all of your listeners. As we get older, all we have is remember the kindness. Just remember kindness and be kind. Right. That's all.
That's it. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do in life. I mean, that's some people. I mean, I've gotten gentler and kinder over, the more I age. It's just kind of like I don't get upset about stuff anymore. I don't dwell on anything. It's just kind of you turn the page, and you don't want the drama, and you don't want to. If someone's going to upset you, or you're not going to be, someone's going to be out there to piss you off. I mean, you just kind of turn the page on them, and you say, "God bless you," and you say,
So you're not going to attack the twins at the Cauliflower Alley?
No, I mean, I really enjoy their company these days because they're the same, and it just brings you back 30-something years because they're the same. They have not changed. And and I mean, if you go on Facebook and you see Larry and David Sontag, and they're on our Pro Wrestling Spotlight private group, and they're always antagonizing Sunny Beach, Rick Allen. calling him Sonny Bleach. They're always making fat jokes about him. I mean, that's all they do. They have not grown up. They got a little older. They look older, but they have not grown up. Crazy stuff. But Marsh, I think we have another clip of those early days. What's next on the agenda here on our trip down memory lane?
Speaking of the Power Twins, show number 6, May 14th, 1989. Power Twins are in studio as Sonny gets a call from a caller.
North American champion. Just a reminder of an upcoming Indy in Warwick, Rhode Island on June 3rd. Bam Bam Bigelow, Ken Patera, Jules Strongbow, and Alpha Simone, among others, are booked for that card. For the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, reporting on the Independents, I'm Don Laible.
Thank you, Don. And Don's report can be heard every other week here at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, and he gives us up-to-the-minute reports on the independent scene. We had a question that came in for Broadway Sonny Blaze from Joe Gigliano, one of our listeners, and he wanted to know, Broadway, what inspired you to wrestle professionally?
Okay, growing up, I had a great deal of admiration for many of the wrestlers. Tony Atlas, my last night's opponent, was one of them. Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund, superstar Billy Graham. And just the desire to emulate these gentlemen. So I started training.
Made your debut not too long ago.
No, not at all. And I had a match last night with the heavyweight champion, Tony Atlas.
And it was an unfortunate situation where you lost that one, but I know you'll be back in there again, Broadway.
I'd like to be back in there someday. I'd like to be back as soon as possible, maybe in there against the Power Twins.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Big time.
Get a partner. Get whoever you want.
I'm thinking of maybe Bialo.
Get the Fat Slob from Brooklyn. We'll beat you both all over the ring. If you can get him out of the water long enough. Take Marty Marblemouth here. We'd like to have you both in the ring at the same time. If you get Bialo a bucket of fish, he'll be more than happy to be your partner.
Let's find that guy, Bialo.
That'll be his payoff for the night. A bucket of fish, perhaps.
The big Power Twins, 300-pound weightlifters, insulting handicapped people, picking on 120-pound Marty Pereira.
We just tell it the way it is. We don't insult anybody. We just tell them the way it is. We don't pull no punches.
Another good reason to become a professional wrestler is to someday be able just to shut people like this up, John.
And someday you'll find out how to do it.
I will.
But right now you can't.
I promise I will.
So I guess the admiration that you developed for the Power Twins over the last few weeks is kind of dissipated.
No, to admire them is easy.
From afar.
Professor Tanaka brings up a good point when he says about the family being the nucleus. They say that brothers make the best tag teams because they tend to think alike. These men are more than brothers. They're twin brothers. They are alike. They think in the same thing at the same time. They're feeling each other's pain. They seem to be extremely close to each other. But I just don't think that they're all that great.
Well, you can put down the written speech. It was very nice what you said, but we are the greatest. We are the tag team of the 90s. And you people will be lucky enough to see us next week in Brooklyn. Meet up that fat whale from Brooklyn, Bialo the mental midget.
Plus, there'll be like 8 other men in the ring as well besides Bialo.
Well, he's just the fattest. He's the biggest target.
Would you say you have the biggest muscles in professional wrestling?
Which muscle are you speaking of?
Obviously, the one between your ears.
Whoa.
Are you guys going to take the orange and white cam to the matches?
We didn't ask for any of his comments.
No,
Glenn,
I think Sonny's going to be taking the red and white ambulance out of here today.
Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do now. Before we continue on with the program, we do have a couple more calls coming in. A Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
Yeah, that's fun to reminisce, man.
Holy cow! Where did I find the courage for that?
You just went for it, man.
I must have been drinking early. Jeez.
We had Marty in there. You had Glenn, the G-Man in the control room. You had the twins, yourself, and I guess that was not too far away from the Battle Royal that Tommy D was promoting that you played a part of. And I don't know if that's the show that I worked as a manager for you against Taz. That might have been that night. And he was he was actually called Kid Crush.
Yep.
And I worked out there with you, and he slammed my head against a ring post, and it didn't actually feel that good.
I had probably a half a dozen matches with Taz over the years.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he can put you down like a baby, or he can slam you down like he's throwing something away. He's ridiculously strong. Like freakishly strong. And once he gets his hips under you, man, you're going. You know, wherever he's throwing you. But it was great working with him so many times. I also, when he first started the Tasmaniac gimmick, I wrestled him for the Savoldis. Yeah. And he was just experimenting with it, and he was doing spins and stuff. Of course, he evolved into a great, one of the best wrestlers around.
Oh yeah, Hall of Famer, all of that. I mean, he's just a tremendous, and he's still his son is doing tremendous in AEW wrestling. I mean, he's got some unbelievable.
My second match was against his cousin. His cousin wrestled as Mako. Joe, I forget Joe's last name.
Okay. Not somebody who stayed in the business a long time, I would guess.
No, he was a little smaller than Taz, but again, tremendous freestyle wrestler, shooter, you know.
Yeah, strong.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Taz, you know, to this day, just out there, and what a career he's had, man, I tell you.
Yep.
But I tell you, one of the things that we did, we traveled up and down the road together, and, you know, we went to some of those Savoldi TV tapings, you know, hoping that we'd get paid for your work. I did some TV announcing. You would go there, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we traveled up there in almost like a blizzard to Kutcher's up in upstate New York or something. Yes. And it was never, you know, you waited for an envelope at the end of the night that really never came.
Breaking kayfabe again. When they told me that I was getting $40, and then that night I wrestled 3 times, I thought that was $120.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know it was $40, and we drove all the way up, into the Catskills.
Yeah.
You know, it's so you sort of learn as you earn type of.
Oh, exactly. Business. I mean, you know, the promoters that you dealt with back in the day, you had the Tommy D's, you had Mark Tendler, you had the Savoldis. You had a young kid named Mitch Seinfeld who promoted several shows, and he's doing incredibly well outside of the wrestling business now. But when you're breaking into the business and you got to deal with promoters that, you know, it's the wrestling business, you know, so you deal with all kinds. Out of all of those indie promoters, who would you have to say you enjoyed working for, and why?
Oh, geez. I'm going to say I enjoyed the Savoldis because of the television exposure.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Tommy D because his shows always had a lot of big names on them.
Yes.
And, you know, Mark, because he's the one who broke me in. So, you know, being on his shows, they were always local. I usually would sell somewhere to 50 to 75 tickets. So I'd have people in the audience. And
wasn't that a requirement too? Like you have to sell tickets to your friends and family to.
Well, yeah, there was no such thing as comps.
Yeah.
You know, if you have people who want to come see you, you sell them a ticket. That's, but John, I really enjoyed I enjoyed all of them. Because it wasn't about the money at that point. It was about getting experience, getting in the ring. You know, how many opportunities do you get to wrestle Ivan Koloff, Bam Bam Bigelow, Tony Atlas? You know, this is not yet with the WWF. This is just in these local shows.
Yeah.
Mike Sundance, you mentioned, you know, I had wrestled him in Amityville, by the way, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. On that show was Don Morocco. I forget who else. Geez, I'm sorry.
But there was always those headliners that were going to sell the tickets.
Yeah, but
those big names.
But like Mike that night, I met him in the locker room, and that was the first time for that where I didn't know the person I was going to work with. So it's, you know, and here I threw him into the ropes and called arm drag, you know, and he goes off the rope, and boom, I threw him right out of his elbow pad. That poor guy, you know.
You're young and learning and trying to, get your chops in, and just kind of the more you work, the better that you become. And
but I didn't dislike any promoters.
Yeah,
I still don't.
Yeah,
I look back, everything was good. And it's not like anyone ever said, hey, I'm going to pay you $500 and then paid me 10, or there was never any promise of pay whatsoever. It was just, we're going to let you work.
Yeah.
And you're going to get paid whatever the hell we
have left, or whatever,
right.
Whatever we decide to pay you. I mean, it's really crazy business that way. And I'm going to bring up another guy that I know you did some work for, and one of the wildest personalities in the history of the wrestling business, promoter-wise. But first,
exactly where this is going.
I know, but first I want to go back in time and get Marsh back on here for a second. And the next clip we have is from when, Marsh?
This is from show 24, September 17th, 1989. This is the Cactus Jack debut. Cactus Jack Manson, I believe, is who we have on this one.
Yep. Well, before we get to that, Sonny, you had mentioned that I had been hearing about this Cactus Jack, and I knew that you knew him, and you mentioned him, and before you know it, we're bringing him to the studio. You're bringing him to WNYG, and this is a guy who has become, in my life, to this day, one of the dearest friends I ever developed in the wrestling business, and he appeared on the program more than anybody else.
Look, John, isn't he one of the most purely decent men? Forget about wrestling. One of the most purely decent men you've ever met.
Yes.
Very intelligent, college degrees, extremely hard worker. He'd worry about every little thing. I don't want to say it like it's pedantic. I'm not making it a little issue. He was so concerned with becoming what he wanted to become, and he wanted to get it so right. He wanted to nail it. Even the bang bang, that started as an accident, because after his match with Steve Williams, one of his first matches with WCW, he's outside the ring, the camera's on him. He didn't know what to do, so he just went bang 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 on the door, baby. From the B-52 song.
Yeah.
And it became his bang bang,
Wow, that's great.
But he knew what to keep, what to ditch. And he's just so considerate of everybody.
He is.
And
I mean, he is.
Yes. He did a show for me, by the way. I did fundraisers around Port Richey, Newport Richey. And one of them was for the Achievers of America. And he wrestled gratis for free. The only thing he asked me to do was make a donation to RAIN, which is a charity that's near and dear to his heart. I understand he works phones and everything for them. And he didn't even put an amount on it. He just said, make a donation to RAIN. And what a fantastic guy. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah. Anytime I get a chance to see him or have him on a show or just run into him, it's just a pleasure for me, because he meant so much.
And he even mentioned me in his first book.
Yes.
He mentioned that I trained Mikey Whipwreck. He trained me. I trained Mikey Whipwreck, blah, 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 And just to throw my name into a book like that is kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go back, Marsh, right? Show number 24, September 17th, I think it was, 1989. And
yeah, did you know that Cactus was going to be there? Did Sonny, did you surprise him, or did you talk to him beforehand?
No, I think we arranged it before, right?
Yeah,
and then you brought it. You actually, did you bring him there, or he drove himself? Because you guys were both there in the studio that day.
There's a good chance I drove him back then.
Yeah. All right. Because I just like the tone of this one.
Cactus's cars were about as nice as his clothes.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Awesome.
All right, let's go to it.
Hello there, wrestling fans. Welcome to another edition of the Professional Wrestling Spotlight, heard each and every week right here on 1440 WNYG in Babylon, New York. Very exciting show lined up for you today. We have a special guest here in the studio, someone who I'm a little leery about even talking to at this point. He's been here for about a half an hour, and I'm trying to get things under control in here. His name is Cactus Jack Manson.
Hey, listen, John.
Jack, what's up?
Now, listen, everybody that listens to your show knows that you were a washout at my profession.
A washout as far as what?
A washout talent-wise.
I didn't last very long in the business, but
that's what I'm saying, all right?
Best.
You were a failure at
words of
best.
Frankie Williams.
Being kind. Yeah, I'd put you in the same class as Frankie Williams.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
But listen, John, just because you're a washout at what I do doesn't mean that I don't think I can do what you do. I come a long way to be on this show here. You haven't covered my expenses yet, and I expect to run things the way I want them to be run. I can push buttons for a living if I need to.
Well, Donald Trump doesn't run this radio station either, so I know what your expenses are like. I've heard from different promoters around the country the type of expenses you have. We're just trying to have a good 2-hour show here, and I'm a little nervous even being in the studio with you.
No, that's my point. That's my point. If you leave it to me, let me push the buttons. It will be a good 2-hour show.
Okay, and I know you have an allegiance here with Broadway Sonny Blaze. You guys worked out together a while ago, a few years back, I believe, when Broadway was just starting.
Hey, Sonny.
And, we're going to be taking calls. I guess you do want to hear from some of the fans out there.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the people have to say.
Okay, 661-1440 is the number to call here at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight to speak to Jack Manson, and Cactus Jack Manson, excuse me. Don't give me that look. I will definitely try to keep things under control here for the next couple of hours. It should be a very exciting program with Cactus Jack Manson. We're also going to talk about the big Clash of the Champions 8 program, which aired Tuesday night on WTBS, extravaganza to say the least. And the main event was a wild one of the wildest matches I've ever seen. We'll be talking about that. We're talking about our bus trip taking place October 28th, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, pay-per-view NWA show, Halloween Havoc 89, settling the score. We're going to talk about upcoming shows in the area. But as you know, first and foremost, the main guest here in the studio today, Cactus Jack Manson. And I do have to say one thing before we go into our first commercial break.
Say it.
You are one of the roughest wrestlers I've ever seen. One of the best wrestlers I've seen in quite some time. As far as what? As far as comparing you to some of the other roughhouse wrestlers that I've seen, guys even like Bruiser Brody and,
Well, that's a fair...
I'm getting nervous looking at this guy over here.
Don't get nervous, John. This is your show. You can kick me out if you like.
No,
but I do know where you live.
Yeah, I know you do. Okay,
John,
yes.
Cactus Jack has been compared with the former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Terry Funk.
Yeah, I understand that. He's probably about as maniacal as Terry Funk is. Well, what we're going to do when we get back from our first commercial break, we're going to talk to Cactus Jack Manson about his wrestling career, what's been happening with him recently. He's recovering from a severe injury. We'll be getting into all the details as far as that goes, and then we're going to open up the phone lines at 661-1440. Get your questions prepared now for Cactus Jack Manson. We'll be back with more of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight right after this timeout.
John, did you notice when Cactus started talking, he had a little dude love in there?
He had a little dude love in there, didn't he?
Yeah. I think from his, what he was doing on the garage and off the roof and off of anything he could jump. And he was cutting those garage promos when he was back in high school.
Yep.
There was a little bit of dude love in the beginning of that.
Yeah, that was kind of like his persona. I mean, because that's when he did that home video jumping off the roof, and it wasn't too long after his first appearance that our friendship developed. And I don't know if you were there or not. All I know is that my mother was petrified of him because I invited him over to the apartment, and he wanted to show me some tapes of him in Texas, and he wanted to show me that Dude Love movie that he put together as a kid. And so he shows up, and he's very nice and polite. And my mother was scared, just scared of him in the beginning, no matter how nice he was. And
but, John, I'm going to say this about Cactus. Now, your mom was scared to death of him. He came over to my house. We were watching a pay-per-view or something. My mom had cancer, so she had whittled away down to nothing. And she gets up, she uses the restroom. On her way back to the bedroom, Cactus is in the living room. She stops and introduces herself, and he stands up. Here's this giant, he's 6'4", legit, back then about 270, big beard, wild hair. And he gently took my mother's hand and said, "Thank you for opening your home to me, Mrs. Schaefer." And it's funny, but after that encounter with this Cactus Jack, she felt more comfortable with me being in the business.
No kidding.
Yep, that's on my eyes. That's what happened. Cactus has an ability to. He's so genuine, and he is. That young man that stood up and said, "Thank you for opening your home to me." That he meant that. That wasn't just something polite to say. That he meant it, and that him being so genuine comes across with everything he does. Everything. So your mom was probably mainly afraid of his look. She just saw him, and but geez, there is, again, you couldn't ask for a sweeter man in the whole world. He's concerned about everybody.
Yeah, he certainly was, and my mom was frightened of him. But there was another visit to my apartment at that time that she really kind of dug, and that was when John Tolis showed up with Herb Abrams in 1990, and we're going to get into Herb in a little bit here, but she liked John. She thought John was a very handsome man. My mom did. She I miss her. Obviously she's been gone since 2007 now.
Yes,
but I was able to bring her down to Tennessee and live here, down here for the last 3 years of her life. Actually, the last 4 years of her life, and she mellowed out quite a bit towards the end, which was kind of, for me, very therapeutic. It was, because she just kind of mellowed, because she was a little volatile at times, But anyway, you knew my mom. You saw her. Yeah. As we go back in history a little bit more, I really focused a lot of this stuff on that first year, because you were just there every week, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And Marsh will bring you back on now, because I think our next clip is not too far in the distant future after that. No. And it could have been what, October of that year?
October 25th, 1989, show number 29.
Okay.
This is where it took me a minute when I was listening to this too to figure out what was happening, because I was like, that's not John. What's going on? Sonny takes over the studio somehow or another and interviews Jack the Giant Stalker.
Yeah. Now, this Marsh, as you know, and as everybody who's listened to the Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast since 2019, and we started to review the old shows, this segment, and it'll be a little long, and we may stop it as we proceed with it. You brought in a dude who you interviewed. I gave you I even left the studio, and I let you take over. And you brought this guy in who was, I can't to this day even figure it out where he came from, how you knew him. But it's one of the most memorable moments in the history of Pro Wrestling Spotlight because of how bizarre it was. So I don't know if you want to start the clip off, and then we'll stop it, and then we'll get the backstory. But this dude was incredibly insane.
Okay.
Why don't we start it off, and then we'll stop it. I'll give you a cue, Marsh. I'll just say stop it, and then I want to find out more about Jack the Giant Stalker and even some of the calls he took on the show.
Okay.
It got better and better for sure.
And back with the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. This is the first time I'm doing this. Very excited. Big John stepped out of the control room for a second, so I'm in the hands of the G-Man. Okay, with us in the studio is Jack the Giant Stalker, light heavyweight wrestler from North Carolina. Jack, before the show, you were telling us a little bit about your history. You were a serviceman.
Yes, Sonny. I spent some time as a Green Beret I served 2 tours over in Vietnam, and it was during my training as a Green Beret that I learned my ninja training.
And what's the name of that training again?
Ninjutsu.
Ninjutsu. And you take this into the ring with you?
Yes, honey, I do.
Now, you're one of the few, I hate to categorize wrestlers, but scientific wrestlers who actually uses the martial arts in a very positive way in the ring.
That's true, Sonny. It's been a problem for me for some time, being a small guy as I am, and it's hard, something, you know, to see these big guys that come in there, and just because of their size and their weight and everything else, that they can push you around. And I'm in that ring as the giant stalker to try and show you and show everybody, the public, that that's not true.
Well, you and I sparred earlier this afternoon, and I can say that it was I would say it was the toughest sparring session I've ever had. Since the fans at home can't actually see us, let me explain. Jack weighs about 205 pounds, 200 pounds?
Yes, that's right, Sonny.
And you were lifting me off my feet easily, well, taking me off my feet with the kicks, chops, flying head scissors. You're extremely fast and agile in the ring.
Yes, I found that being quick in this profession is what's going to get you on top.
Well, it got you on top when you toured Europe recently with the North Carolina-based IWA. Do you care to expand on that?
Well,
okay, recently Jack went on a tour of Europe, okay, and while he was there, he wrestled in Germany, I forget East or West, Italy, France, and England, right?
Yes, I did a tour throughout Europe, and during that time, with the IWA, I held the United Kingdom Light Heavyweight Championship.
Now, you explained to me before the show, I've never been to Europe, I've never traveled off of the East Coast, actually, but you said that in other parts of the world, the light heavyweights in wrestling get more respect than they do here in the United States. Why do you think that is?
That's really a hard question to answer. I really don't have one for it.
But, like, I see these monster men, I like to call them, Sid Vicious, Lex Luger. Their matches are good. They're extremely good. And for their size, they're extremely agile. But there's something, I remember watching guys like Tatsumi Fujinami in Madison Square Garden, Tiger Mask, even guys like the Blue Blazer, they just didn't get that push. Instead of matching up light heavyweights with light heavyweights, they throw a light heavyweight in with a guy who weighs 330 pounds. You run into his chest, you bounce off like a marble.
That's true, Sonny, and that's why we get into a lot of scientific moves, and I found that martial arts is something that not known much by your big wrestlers. They use their brute force and their size to try and overcome their smaller opponent.
Well, like Gorilla Monsoon says, a good little man will always beat a bad big man.
And he couldn't have said a more truer statement.
Now, tell us...
All right, listen. All right, I want to get... Here we go. How did you meet this dude? And you asked him about that tour. I want to know the backstory of how this happened, because I am clueless 34 years later on what the hell happened, and how did you find this dude and bring him to the show?
Okay. And by the way, I might have embellished a little bit.
Well, I could tell that. I mean, that's evident. You know, let me just, before you start, because I know you're laughing hard, when I was working with a T-shirt, a merch manufacturer, and because of the outcry of Jack the Giant Stalker, we actually put together a T-shirt of Jack the Giant Stalker. It didn't sell any copies. Marsh, I'll probably give you that photo so you can insert that when we do the video cast here. But tell me more about how this happened, where you found him, what the story is with this dude.
A young lady from Islip Terrace that I dated. Okay. She was beautiful. But you remember Cindy, my first wife.
I do.
I'm married now. May 17th, it'll be 20 years. I'm with my second wife, Debbie, my last wife. I beg your pardon, because if she sees this,
congrats.
We're not going to put a note on it. But so years and years earlier, I dated a young lady, Islip Terrace, and her sister is married to Jack the Giant Stalker. Okay. They moved down to one of the Carolinas or Georgia or something. And, you know, it just so happened that he had gotten into this like barnyard type wrestling. He showed the videos he gave me were, oh God.
Would that be considered like a mud show today? They call it like an outdoor, like just really haphazardly put together. And what is a barn show?
Well, like they're in a barn, a ring is up. There's 50 people from town come in, and you got these guys who obviously are complete. Well, they were trained by Jack the Giant Stalker, so they're terribly untrained. They're just
this dude was training guys.
Yeah.
What was his? Do you remember his name?
Yes, I do. Jack Arezzi.
Jack. He was an Italian guy.
Because he actually grew up around the corner from me.
Okay.
From my home in Central Iceland. So, and he was married to Jeannie Sullivan, and you know, so we knew each other through Jeannie. I actually didn't know him growing up, even though he grew up right around the corner from me. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I don't know how he wound up on the show. You know, I don't know that.
Well, I didn't invite him.
No, I invited him, but I'm surprised you had a show after this particular episode. But and I don't know where I'm coming up with all of this nonsense that I'm saying.
Well, it's a kayfabe storyline, man. You guys are just working it.
But I first of all, the only way I know, I must have learned that. I learned that from you, because he was as bad an interview as he was a wrestler. But a nice guy. Honestly, he was like 5'2", if you recall. He's not a big guy at all. And you know, I'm watching him.
5'2".
Maybe 5'4", you know,
but a small dude. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Very small. And this videotape I had, saw him in there he was training some giant guy that he thought he could manage, and you know, maybe the WWF would get a hold of it, and it was just absolutely horrible. It was, and I'm not picking on anybody. God bless everybody.
You did him a favor, right? It was a favor to bring him in, to give him a little exposure,
right? And but you know, every time I handed something to him, it just seemed like I had to take it back, and it almost felt like in that segment I was interviewing myself, sort of jumping from chair to chair.
You were trying to help a dude out, and as we continue with the next portion of the clip, it gets even more bizarre.
I honestly don't remember this, but I'm enjoying it.
Well, you're gonna have fun with the clips, especially a couple of the calls that are coming up. So, Marsh, why don't we continue on this trip down memory lane with Jack the Giant Stalker, man?
I do have a quick question. Is there any chance you still have those tapes?
The videotapes, I probably do.
You should dig those up. Absolutely dig those up.
These guys were so terrible. It was like painful to watch. And because of the relationship with my ex-girlfriend, and I have to sit there and sort of, oh yeah, that was great. You know, oh my gosh, you know, I'm surprised nobody's dead.
You were being nice. You were polite.
Yeah, I was.
Is that why you left the studio, John? Were you still like, hey, I'm not putting my name on this?
I wanted no part of it. I got it. Matter of fact, you know, because back then we'd smoke in the studio, and I was ready to go outside and just start puffing away, man. I was like, what's going on in there?
John had a professional reputation to protect.
Yeah, I did. You're right. Back then it was just like, you know, every week. I mean, the comedy on the show back then, unintentional. But it was comedy, from the Power Twins to Marty Pereira and you know, even the staff at WNYG and the G-Man and all of these characters, from even the owners of the station. And we did a benefit. Remember, we did that benefit outside with the Twins and Larry Spitz from LNS Comics, and I believe it was for the Starlight Foundation or one of these other charities. And we brought wrestlers there, and we promoted it heavy, and people started showing up, and Mrs. Hornstein, the owner of the station, took the donations, and I don't think she ever gave the charity any money. I think well, she was a piece of work herself, or didn't give them what we raised totally. I mean, it was just kind of we have a photograph of that. I texted you earlier, Marshall. Put that in for the people who watch us on YouTube. Well, that was a crazy day. It was always something at WNYG. It was not.
Marsh,
it
the
was
show
not
was on
professional
Sunday
radio.
nights.
Yeah,
The show was on Sunday evenings, and every Monday, John would get a call.
Yeah.
He was talking to the owner of the station about something.
Right.
Getting yelled at.
Always getting yelled at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
But another from that radio show, just prior to you, was Joel Martin.
Yes.
And we wound up on his TV show.
Oh, that's right. We did an interview on his show.
That's correct. And Joel Martin used to have a psychic guy.
Yes. Yeah.
And he became a very famous psychic.
Oh, yeah. He was famous long before even when we did that
Yes.
stuff with him. He was one of the staples on WBAB AM back then. And the author of many, many books. Became a dear friend of the family, by the way. My sister, because we all were community at WNYG. We're all kind of like the bond that was created was crazy. But that station was 10 times worse than WKRP in Cincinnati. The cast of characters that came in and out of there, and then you put the wrestling show on, and it was. You look back at it now, it was just fun.
Yes,
fun.
Yes, it was. I'm having fun right now.
Yeah, this is kind of a great way for to look back, because the show really didn't turn serious until after Steamboat left the NWA and he came on to talk about a contract, and then Jim Herd came on, and then all of a sudden we start getting inside and more.
You had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, former NWA World Champion, on your show.
Yeah,
you had Rockin' Robin, Jake's sister, the women's champion.
Everybody came on.
You got a lot of guests that, who else gets these people?
No, I mean, it was magical time. That's why when we put these shows on each and every week now, from like a few weeks ago, we had Ultimate Warrior. I mean, he did a shoot interview when we were in New York City, and all the Paul Lee and the Cactus Jacks, and we just did a show with where Conan was in the studio for the first time, and Terry Funk is on the phone, and all of a sudden Honky Tonk Man calls in, and Terry Funk starts shooting on him because he thought he was a moron. I mean, it was just kind of it was magic. Everything was magic on this Pro Wrestling Spotlight,
Yep.
and more hilarity awaits, I guess, with Jack the Giant Stalker, man.
Sonny, do you remember John saying that you can have the guy on, but you have to do it? Because even in the beginning of that clip, you sounded a little almost nervous, like I've never done this.
Well, if you hear in all these, I can hear myself nervous with that first one especially, and then I start getting a little more comfortable.
Okay.
Probably I was very nervous because I never, had control of the show. I was always sitting next to John.
And I deserted you.
Yeah,
John just
up and leaves.
I had to get out of there, so I said, "You go ahead. This is your fault. You brought this guy in here. Now do it.
Put out the fire."
Yep. All right, let's hear the rest of this one.
Okay.
A little bit about we know about the IWA that's based here in New Jersey, Mitch Steinfeld's IWA. But tell us about your North Carolina IWA. Who are some of the stars that appear in that area?
We have some old timers like Jimmy Valiant, Boogie Woogie Man, and we've have Ivan and Nikita Koloff, Tommy Royal, are some of the stars that we've had in our association.
And now they hold cards throughout the East Coast or primarily in North Carolina?
They're working the East Coast right now, but primarily in the Carolinas.
Okay, now these are names that we all know. Do you know if some of the other rookie wrestlers start? I'm interested in rookie independent wrestling right now. That's my big kick. Go out and see independent wrestling. But can you tell us about some of maybe the young stars that are appearing that are just moving up?
Well, we have some stars like Chuck, the Kosher Killer.
The Kosher Killer?
Kosher Killer. The man is really knows how to work a crowd. He's a good wrestler, and I've learned a lot from him. And
let me also tell the fans that in all this time you've been wrestling, you've only been in wrestling for approximately a year and a half, right?
Just about a year and a half. I'm new into the field.
Okay.
But I'm on my way to make a name.
But you're obviously not new to combat. 2 tours in Vietnam as a Green Beret.
No, that's true, and I'm going to try and use that expertise to find my way in the wrestling world today.
Let me also point out to the fans another interesting I guess you would call it active intimidation that you use often. Often you'll come to the ring in your ninja, what would that be, a gi?
My ninja gi.
But again, you come in with your ninja gi, but you wrestle scientifically. You don't, I've never actually seen you, I've never actually heard of you going out and trying to maim or injure anybody, just trying to score a pinfall win.
That's true, Sonny. We're not out there to hurt anybody or anything. We work a show, and we do the best that we can.
Any chance of you wrestling here in the Northeast soon, where the fans on Long Island, specifically Long Island, so they could come out and see you?
I'm looking forward to it. In the near future, I'll be working my way up towards this way.
Okay. Before we go any further, I just want you to say hello to your wife and kids real fast, because I know they're listening right now. Okay.
Hello, Jeannie and Johnny and my other son, Raymond.
That's right. And I have no idea what's going on in the control room, but I see a phone blinking. Okay, back to Jack. So, do you want to tell us a little more about the IWA now? How often do they promote cards?
Usually about every 2 weeks.
So, once every 2 weeks. And you work on all the IWA cards down in North Carolina, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you have any future plans for Japan?
Well, we're going to try and set up a tour within the next couple of months, maybe a Christmas tour.
Now, again, in Japan, the light heavyweight ranks are a little more active than here in the United States.
Yes.
So you're going to broaden your competition a bit. Do you think with your ninjutsu, do you think that'll blend well with the Japanese style of wrestling, which isn't a very aggressive, martial arts-oriented type of wrestling? Wow, we're weirding out here today.
No, it will help me a lot, and I intend to use it.
Okay, we'll just keep... I wish we had a shade to pull down. Hey, G. So, if anyone wants to call and talk to Jack, they can call here at 661-1440. We're going on a break. Thank you. I'm learning this.
Hello, my name is Tommy Wildfire Rich, and you're listening to the Pro Wrestling Spotlight with John Anthony on 1440 WNYG. Fire it up. This is Buck Logan, speaking on the record about Off the Record, the only place I go for CDs, cassettes, and music videotapes. Off the Record, located on Merrick Road in Copac, also has sheet music, accessories, and import CDs. And you know how hard it is to find the latest imports. It's about as hard as Macho Man's head, and that's hard, brother. Call 789-1919. That's 789-1919. Talk to my brother Mark. He'll take care of you. The Bunkster loves Off the Record at 59 Merrick Road in Copac. They're open Monday to Friday, 11 to 9 p.m., Saturday 10 to 9, and Sunday 12 to 6. Stop in today and tell them the Bunkster sent you, and receive $2 off any CD or $1 off any cassette, not including sale items. While you're there, ask about their preferred customer club, Off the Record in Copac. Call them at 789-1919. That's 789-1919 for the best CDs, cassettes, music videotapes, and imports. If they don't have it, they'll get it. Take it from me, Buck Bogan, speaking on the record about Off the Record in Copac.
Attention women wrestling fans, now available from Delta Tiger Lilies are a series of video cassettes featuring the top women wrestlers competing in action-packed matches never seen before. You'll see an Indian strap match, 25 women battle royal, 6 girl tag bouts, plus championship encounters. Watch stars like Medusa Michelli, Misty Blue, Brandy May, Susan Sexton, Linda Dallas, and many other top names compete in exciting matches. Call toll-free 1-800-544-4057. That's 1-800-544-4057. Just $39.95 each or all 3 volumes for just $99.95. Call 1-800-544-4057 or order the preview tape for just $23.95. Call anytime 1-800-544-4057. MasterCard, Visa, and American Express accepted. Delta Tiger Lilies, the leaders in women's video cassettes, featuring the best of women's professional wrestling. Call now, 1-800-544-4057.
Back with the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. The number to call is 661-1440, and we do have a call, and we're going to get right to it right now. It's 661-1440 at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Hello, you're on the air.
I'd like to talk to Jack the Giant Stalker.
You sure can. Here he is. Here, Jack.
This is Giant Stalker.
Hello, Jack, honey. Oh, Jack, I wanted to talk to you. I saw you in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I think for a little guy, you sure pack a wallop.
Well, thank you very much.
And you have a wonderful body. I mean, I don't know if that's right to say on the air, but I think you are wonderful. Are you married?
I'm sorry. Yes, I am.
You are.
Well,
you must be a wonderful girl because you deserve it, honey. You have a lovely body. You seem like you have a lovely personality, and I hope that you have a lot of good luck.
Well, thank you very much, and she is special to me.
That's wonderful. You have any children?
Yes, I do.
You do? They must be darling.
I have 2 boys.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Well, I wanted to tell you that my mama loves you, too. She saw you, and she thinks you're the cutest thing.
Well, I love all my fans.
That's wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it. 661-1440. And
all right. Let's get to this now. Who the hell was that? Was that his wife? And
okay.
What was she doing with that accent? She sounded like somebody from Gone with the Wind.
My life to a glass of water. I'll bet anything that was Jeannie.
Yeah, had to be.
And by the way, I wanted to say, prior to that segment where you popped in, I think so far I've been carrying that interview.
Yes. And I think I had to come in during that commercial break. It was like, I got to get this wrapped up. Man.
I wonder what Bruce and you were doing in the control room that I said, I wish that we had a shade to close or something.
Right.
Because Bruce had to be doing something.
Yeah.
We
were probably going wild in the control room, you know.
Oh, God. I'm trying. I don't remember this. And I'm like thinking, like I'm imagining it now.
Yeah. This is your life.
Oh, my gosh. You know, what did I do to John's show? You know?
Hey, listen, all I can say, reminiscing, listening to even the old commercials and hearing a segment like this and the fun, the magic, in a lot of ways, it was a magical time in the infancy of Pro Wrestling Spotlight. And this segment, as I said, was one of those, like, this is a best of moment in the history of this program. And it generated a tremendous response when we first put it up on the podcast. It was 2019. And he lived.
Like I owe you an apology.
No, it's a legendary segment. It'll be there forever.
Good.
And it's very, very cool to listen back. And you did the best you could to try to get information out of this guy and whatever the storyline was. But when I heard that phone call with Scarlett O'Hara, it was like, I got to get it wrapped up. But I believe, Marsh, I think we got one more call that comes in from some kid who probably was the son or something. So why don't we get to that last part of this insane interview, man?
Yeah. Do you remember if Jack was actually in really good shape? Because she was really hammering home how he had such a nice body.
Yeah.
No, he was in good street shape, not good ring shape. You know.
I had a feeling they were laying on a little thick. I was like,
yeah.
They must. You have any children?
Yeah,
they must be darling. And my mama likes you too.
And by the way, that whole family is wonderful. So
good people.
They are.
Took over the show for an episode, but that's fine.
I hope they think back on it. I hope they tell the story from time to time. Do you remember when we did that interview?
That would be nice if that happened. Yes.
Yeah. My goodness.
All right, I'm gonna play the rest of it.
Okay.
It's been a weird day thus far here at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. What we're going to do is we're going to be speaking to, in a little bit, George Napolitano, and we're going to be going over the big pay-per-view show. And I don't have an ashtray in here today either. That's pretty weird itself. Okay, let's take a call in the meantime at 661-1440, right here at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. You're on the air. Hello?
Hello, can I speak to Jack, the Giant Stalker?
Sure you can. Hold on 1 second. Here's Jack.
This is Giant Stalker.
Yeah, hi. I'm Lewis from Bayshore. I want to know, what are your best moves in fighting, big guys like 6 feet, 6'5"?
Usually I like to use high-flying moves, and I do a lot of kicks.
Yeah, which flying moves are the best to use on them?
Well, one of my favorite moves is a spinning back kick, and a high-flying crescent kick.
And where'd you learn all those moves?
Over in Japan.
Oh, that's good. And how do you intimidate, big guys, because it's usually the other way around.
Well, basically what I do is I don't take anything from them.
That's good. Nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your call. 661-1440 Pro Wrestling Spotlight. A lot of interesting development.
That had to be his kid.
There could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
It could have been. And where I was thinking it might be a fan that was undersized getting picked on in school.
I think it was a
I don't know on that one, John.
I was about to say, I think that kid's called in before to other smaller wrestlers, because I feel like that was similar to. I feel like that I've heard that kid in another one,
really,
on older episodes where it was the same thing. A
smaller
smaller
guy.
guy. What do you
George
do?
from Lindenhurst, though?
No, not him.
That
I think it was a kid who was
might
getting
have been
picked
a
on.
kid that got picked on by bigger kids and was asking, "Hey, what do I do to stop this?"
Yeah, because I think he's called in other guys.
It's a revelation to me because I thought the whole thing was a work, man. I thought
Well, first phone call. Believe me, this guy didn't give up any male modeling career.
Yeah,
and he wasn't built like
the
Lex Luger.
The only thing that would have made that segment better was if the Power Twins were in the studio.
Oh God!
Oh my God!
Oh man!
That would have made the interview shorter, probably.
Or if Jack the Giant Stalker was around during the Herb Abrams days, they could have had a match with each other.
Yeah, yeah, there we go. That would have been fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would have been a lot of fun.
And Marsh, I'm sorry. You had you mentioned about you wonder if he thinks back on that. For some people, being on the radio one time, phoning into WBAB, that's a big deal. They remember that. Hey, I was once on the radio for 32 seconds. So
or in this case, 32 days, it seemed like.
I'm sorry, what?
In this case, it seemed like 32 days he was on the radio.
Yes, but that is a big deal for him.
I vividly remember the first time I called into a radio station and got on.
There you go.
Like I just did.
Do you remember what kind of show it was?
The one I called in?
Yeah, the very first time you got on the radio.
It's actually it's a much bigger show now, but John Jay and Rich, they were local guys here in Tucson. Now they're pretty big national. And I called in because they were asking about, the question was like some sort of like weird things you've bought and had gotten looks. And I had called in because I had just recently, I was doing an art project and I needed duct tape. I needed a razor blade. But as I was walking through the aisles, I also saw bungee cords and knew I was moving soon and said, you know what, that would be good. And then when I looked down and said, this looks bad, I was like, I got to have something that doesn't look like I'm, about to do something evil. And so I was like, I'll just grab like a toy. And I grabbed like this cheap Ninja Turtle toy, put it down on the thing, and then realized that made it much worse. As soon as I put it down.
Very, very true, Marsh.
It's just a morning show.
My first experience calling into a radio show was unlike yours. I mean, I called up the Goombody Joe show. It was the Italian hour, and I requested a song. When I was a little boy, it was like this Italian-themed Italian music show. I must have been about 7 or 8 or whatever it was, but that was my first time.
Yeah.
My first time was the Pro Wrestling Spotlight with John Arezzi.
There you go. Or John Anthony at the time.
John Anthony, right? The millionaire guy that
from
TV.
I've had more names. I've had a lot of different names in my life. But
hey, who's looking for you, Paisan? Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Those days are over too, But when I got out of wrestling, I don't even think you know this. When I got out of wrestling, I changed my name to John Alexander. And that's the name I've gone by here in Nashville in all my days in the music business here. But
cool.
But now I'm back to Arezzi. So it's like everyone is like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? I told him I'm schizophrenic. I'm nuts, man.
He's like, the heat's cooled off. I can go back to Arezzi.
Yeah. Tell you about it, man. It's like crazy when I left wrestling, and then the last show you promote, Mil Moskris decides to fly himself in on a first-class ticket after you bought him a coach ticket. And, he wanted reimbursement. And a year after I got out of wrestling, he's calling me up. John, Joan, it's Mil Moskowitz. What about the plane ticket? Mil, I'm not in the fucking wrestling business anymore, and I told you back then I wasn't going to give it to you. So, anyway, yeah, it was crazy, man. Leaving the business was a blessing for me back in '96, but I'm back in. It's like I leave, I come back, I leave, I come back, but this is fun to reminisce like this and go back in time and listen to these crazy clips and.
I'm having a wonderful time. Thank you.
It's a lot of fun. So the next clip I think we got, Marsh, is that is probably not too long after this episode. It could have been the following week because it was Halloween, I think.
Yeah, it was actually, it was the next episode. That last one was episode 29. This one's episode 30, October 29th, 1989. Paul Lee is in studio. Sonny is not in the studio, but he calls in because he's at a show. And then this
Wrestlers Against Drugs. Mark
Pendler,
okay. Jersey. He brought those mafia guys. I think those guys were in the mob or something into the studio to promote this show. They were like Italian dudes. I don't know if you were in the studio that week or whatever, but he brought these guys in and they were promoting the show in Jersey, Wrestling Against Drugs. Okay.
I know.
Well, all I know is like, hey, we're gonna do this and I'm like. And then you go to the show and you're calling in a report from that show. And I have Paul E. in the studio. And I'm like, this is insane. But anyway, it's a funny clip. And Paul E. and you go back and forth with it. But give us a little backstory if you can, as much as you could say without,
My part on that WAD, W-A-D, was...
WAD. That's right. It was called WAD. Yeah.
Right. Wrestlers Against Drugs.
Yeah.
And... David Sammartino was on that show.
I do know that, yeah.
And Ken Patara, I got to meet Mr. Patara. That was huge. But my part was I had to dress up as like this drug dealer, and we're going to do this clip in the ring. Billy Pierce, they were supposed to have a cop's uniform for him. So I brought my leather jacket. I had my weightlifting gloves, cut off fingers. I had on one of those snap hats, the cabbie hats, and I'm talking to this kid in the ring. They didn't have a uniform for Billy at all. So he just comes in and he breaks it up. We do the schmaz and, then they handcuff me and take me away. By the way, I can't stand being handcuffed. No. So I'm having half of anxiety attack being in handcuffs. But the whole thing was just so poorly done, And Mr. DiNucci was there. He was helping Mark run the show. And, you're supposed to have a uniform for the cop. He doesn't, and this was supposed to be the start of something very big, everyone was being told. And, of course, it was the start of nothing. It was the finish.
It was the start of it. It was one show.
Yeah, right.
It was WAD. It was Wrestlers Against Drugs, and they had you dressed up kind of like, I guess you would say, with those gloves and all that. It could have been almost like Sylvester Stallone in Rocky 1.
It looked a lot like that, yes. And even like the drawing of it was weird, the whole thing. It just was, it wasn't well done.
No. Well, let's go listen to what happened in real time 34 years ago.
Okay. I'm looking forward to Paulie.
Excuse me.
He wasn't there last night. He's getting slapped around by Teddy Long too much.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It doesn't seem like he's going to be around too much longer with Teddy Long because the key doesn't seem to be having the powers it used to.
Mm-hmm.
And of course,
because he's dropped it so many times on people's head.
And Eddie Gilbert will be there, Tommy Rich, Steve Williams, and other people that, of course, aren't being billed as among the main matches. So
it'll be an interesting card, I'm sure. The WWF with their Survivor Series now, all the matches have been set. They're promoting it heavily, and that's something I really personally think the NWA should do, is really promote the matches more. We have a live report coming in from Broadway Sonny Blaze, and he's calling in from Mark Tendler's show in New Jersey. Why don't we get on with Broadway right now? Mr. Broadway Sonny Blaze.
Hello, John.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you?
How's everything in Jersey? You still alive?
Yeah, this was nothing.
You didn't get beat up?
No, I did an exhibition bout with Chris Michaels for the Wrestlers Against Drugs.
How's the show?
The show is not bad. A lot of old faces. Davey O'Hannon sends his regards to you.
Oh, great. Davey's there.
As does Mr. Ken Patera.
Beautiful.
Are we on the air right now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, let me fill you in on a few things.
No, we're not. So tell us about your date.
Yeah, we're here with Paulie Dangerously also. And
how's Paul doing?
He's doing pretty good. He had the phones ringing off the hook for an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've been trying to call.
Broadway, let me do this for you, okay?
Yeah.
Can you hold on just 1 second?
Absolutely.
Hold on 1 second, please.
Sure.
Broadway Sonny Blaze calling in directly from the Mark Tendler show. Oh, I have something to tell Mr. Tendler when he gets back on the line about these winners that didn't get their tickets. And I'm sure we're going to make Mr. Broadway Sonny Blaze pass that information along to Mr. Tendler. Outrageous. Angers me to no end. Angers me. I can't believe he did that. So, and he comes on this show. Know what they do, Paul? You want to hear something else? They're advertising on Z100. They're advertising on big station. They bought TV time. Did they buy one spot on this program? No.
Who's advertising on Z100?
They advertise the show everywhere. They paid money to advertise. They didn't pay me a penny to advertise on this program.
Oh, they didn't?
And I just promote everything for free.
And Larry Zbyszko successfully defended his AWA World Heavyweight title against David Sammartino.
Wow. Okay, was it a pin or submission or disqualification, count out?
No, it was a pin. Zbyszko used the ropes for leverage, of course.
Uh-huh. How's David doing?
David looks dynamite.
Uh-huh.
I'm driving
Give my
down to the
regards.
airport.
Uh-huh.
And he's looking good. He's a little upset, so I'm not ready to take him yet.
Okay.
He's smashing stuff around and whatnot.
So I would steer clear to tell him to take me to the airport.
But to show you what kind of... I couldn't get my New Jersey State Athletic Commission license, which was supposed to be arranged, right?
Right.
All of a sudden they said, Blaze, ring. I start walking to the ring. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, that's kind of typical, basically. Now, how was the crowd?
Wait a second. Hold on. David, you want to speak on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight? No.
No.
David just left.
Yeah, I heard him. He doesn't sound like he's in a very good mood.
No, he's not at all.
It's from his payoff from.
But the whole card, there's about 120 people here.
How many?
120.
120 people.
Beautiful arena.
Well, I'm sure the wrestlers are getting paid big money tonight.
But they have some guy playing the harp, you know.
Oh, that's always good at a wrestling match.
Yeah, I think everybody.
Some guy playing the harp. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's another AWA production, Rock and Wrestling. Vern Gagne presents music from the 1860s.
And Guido the harpist.
Can't live without.
Guido the harpist there, yes. Beautiful.
Lovely man. No, but the whole thing's been kind of, I don't know, like...
Well, you see where I'm sitting today.
All right, you started boring, so get off the air.
You see where I'm sitting today. I didn't even bother
It's getting boring. Hurry up. Say something funny, damn it. Come on, if you want to make the record book, you're killing him.
So what?
Did he say he's getting bored?
Yeah.
Yeah, he should be here.
You should be there. He's listening to you.
I feel like I am, Sonny. We're plugged into you right now. Come on, say something funny, humorous, make the ratings go up. Come on, babe. I got things to see and people to do. Come on.
No, but right now the Heartbreakers are in the ring.
Okay. Is that the last match of the night?
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Well, I'm sure you're going to give us a full report here next Sunday at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
Thank you for giving us all diarrhea by listening to this.
Listen, you have a safe trip and tell David I said hello. After he calms down.
No.
Okay, fine.
George is here.
Who?
George.
Tell him I said hello.
I certainly will.
And don't
Hey, listen, where is George right now? Is he at the ring?
Yeah, he's ringside taking photos.
All right. If he has some time, tell him to call and collect. We'll talk to him before we go off the air.
Yeah, maybe he can kill the ratings worse than you did.
Okay, thanks, Sonny. Talk to you next week, man.
Okay, John. Steve Paul, take it easy.
Okay, then I'll take it any way I can get it. Don't you ever call again. God, that's great. The guy goes, this is the most boring show in the world. Then he gives us a description of the thing.
What we're going to do now is we're going to take a break.
What's that going to do for your ratings?
I have no idea. What's going on? What's going
It's
on?
going to kill everything I built up for you. Even with the power down. You can power that thing up and it'll kill all your listeners.
That's quite true. All right. 661-1440, number to call at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
This guy's mother on
20 minutes left. Let's try to get Jim's mother on the line. We'll be back, hopefully, with Jim's mother right after this.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, God. I forgot how much I loved the spontaneity of Paul Dangerously.
Oh, he was fabulous.
Oh,
Fabulous.
God. Such a fast thinker. And
wow.
quick
Marsh, come on for a second.
Oh, my gosh. Paulie was great.
Yeah.
Is great.
Now, is that because now that we're knee deep into this episode with this craziness that just took place with your call-in, Jim from Lindenhurst was a kid who still listens to the show with his friend Rock. And I think that we have another clip of them coming up. right?
Mhm.
But they argued
Yeah.
with him. Is that
Yeah.
on this particular? That's not on this show. It's on the next clip. Is that
It's
correct?
the next one. Yeah, this is the one where eventually, I believe, we get a caller's, like trying to get a caller's mother on the line so Paul can have a fight with her.
Yeah. Do you remember that? You weren't there in the studio, but I would like to just play that for everybody. And it was one of the best of moments. If it's in that particular clip, I would love to be able to just kind of hear that and have Sonny listen to that for the first time, because it was also one of the most memorable moments in the history of Pro Wrestling Spotlight, where this kid Jim from Lindenhurst would have to call into the show each week, and it usually pranked me a lot of times until we developed a good working relationship, and he started to respect the show a little bit more. But he would have to call the show from a payphone because his mom didn't want him to call the show.
I remember this guy.
Yeah. So we were able to, and Paul Lee was worked on this. Bruce Jacobs, the producer of Pro Wrestling Spotlight, we wanted to have Paul talk to somebody that would be Jim's mom. So Bruce called his mother up and said, would you do this on the radio show and talk to this guy, Paulie Dangerously, and just go along with what he does? And she said, yeah, I'll do that. And it became one of the most classic clips in the history of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. And I believe this is also when my sister comes into the studio, because we're having a Halloween party at WNYG at Wee Scotty's bar, and Paul ended up coming with us to the party. So, and my sister comes in like she always does, like Marissa Tomei from My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
So why don't we hear the rest of this and just kind of be entertained by it, because it's so much fun to listen back at.
It's just good.
Spotlights.
I don't care. Get emergency interruption. Get her on the phone. I want to talk to this witch.
Line's busy over at Jim's house.
Well, get her on the phone. I'm going to come there on Halloween and clip her broom, man.
Interesting developments here at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. 20 minutes left in the spectacular program. Once again, reminding you that not only is Paulie Dangerously here this week, next week on the program, Ric Flair via Sports
Hey, how's this? Ready?
Byline.
Hey, ready? Woo! Now you don't need him next week. I can come back.
Do that again.
Woo!
Yeah, you do great imitations.
You darn tootin' I do.
Let's do a couple of those imitations. Tommy Rich, I know you could do him pretty well.
You know, it's a real pleasure to be here on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
Fired up.
Someone say something about John Arezzi eat a pizza pie.
John who?
John Anthony. Your phony name.
That's when I was a big wrestler. I was wrestling in the ring. You never saw me in the ring, did you?
Thank God I didn't.
It was a lot of fun. You get a couple good laughs out of that.
You broke the ring supports.
I did not. Hey, here we go. Got my brother-in-law just walked in the studio. Hey, Tom, how you doing? That's my brother-in-law.
God. Is that your real nose? Get a nose job. Get a nose job.
And there's Monique over there.
Hi, Monique. Is that a salami, or are you just glad to see me, Hen?
We're having a great time here at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
That's a real nice French maid's outfit.
Hey,
honey,
that's my sister.
I don't want to say it now. It's okay. It's okay. God, people flashing me and everything.
Well, you know, since you're so popular, just the word is spread that you're here.
Yeah, I know, man. Some of the stories in the studio alone can spread it.
That's right. So next week on the program, we do have Ric Flair via Sports
Hey, you got that guy's mother on the phone yet?
He's trying.
Got an emergency interruption. I want to talk to her.
2 weeks from today, Brandon May and the coal miner's daughter, Donna Spangler, will be here with us.
I want to talk to her. Get her on. I got some things to say. Calling this sport garbage.
That's right. She gave it to us, and
I'm going to give it to her.
All right, I think she deserves it.
Darn tootin' she does. She on the phone?
He's talking to her. I see the mouth of Bruce Jacobs.
Come on here, honey. Come on. If you got the guts.
She's what? She's not home now.
Who's home?
Who's that? Jim? Is he
home?
back home now?
Well, who's home right now?
No, don't do that. Don't put him on the air. Huh? Pick up what phone? I ain't putting it on the air. Go ahead. All right, let's see what we got. 661-1440. Who's this now? Hello? 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 Yeah, that was interesting. Thanks for putting that on.
You're on the air.
There you go.
A lot of guts.
A lot of guts.
A lot of guts in Long Island. Kind of like Al Arbor leading the Islanders right down the toilet. There are a lot of guts here.
What do you have against the Islanders?
What I have against the Islanders? I don't like their coach. I don't like them. I don't like Long Island, period.
You don't like Long Island?
I don't like Long Island.
What's wrong with Long Island? It's a beautiful place.
I don't like Long Islanders.
Well, is Scarsdale any better?
Yeah, you darn tootin' it is. We got polo clubs, country clubs.
You live next to, you have that castle there? What's that big castle there or something?
It's not a castle, it's an estate.
Oh, an estate?
An estate.
A mental institution or
It's
something?
not a mental, aren't we funny? Go back to the fat farm.
Hey, you want to pay for me to go there if you want to see me lose weight so bad? You got the
I don't
bucks.
want to see you lose weight.
You got the investors.
You know, you gain 600-700 more pounds, man, you'll be like half the way to Joe Pedicino.
You know, a lot of people mistake me for Joe Pedicino in Boston. A couple people made that mistake.
That's because you eat kind of like him.
How do you know? You ever see me eat?
Yeah, at the Chinese restaurant that you went to.
Okay. Okay, let's see what we got here. 661-1440. Hello, you're on the air. Hello?
Yes?
Is this Jim's mom?
Yes, it is.
Jim, now, why won't you let Jim call up this radio station?
Well, I don't care for wrestling.
So?
I think it's savage.
It's savage?
Yes.
What TV shows do you watch?
Anything else but wrestling.
Name one.
Name one?
Name one. Do you come from Long Island?
Yes, I do.
Well, then I'll speak slowly. Name one.
Name one? L.A. Law.
L.A. Law. Oh, good. So you like to watch defense attorneys protect rapes and murderers and people like that on the air and teach young children to grow up to be defense lawyers to defend rapists and murderers and arsonists and stuff like that, but you won't watch professional wrestling.
That's correct. Professional wrestling, it's fixed, and
I didn't know it was broken. Oh, I'm so funny. Go ahead.
And it's savage, and I think that some of these people that they have who are champions, children look up to, I think that they are disgraceful.
Disgraceful. A guy that comes on TV, works out every single morning, makes sure that he has a suntan, and tells kids to say their prayers, eat their vitamins, and go to school and do your homework and graduate college. That's disgraceful, but you watch L.A. Law with a bunch of people out in Hollywood doing cocaine and snorting things and putting things in their veins and defending rapists and murderers and arsonists on television, and you're telling me that's not disgraceful, right?
It's not as disgraceful as some of the champions you have up there.
Saying your prayers and eating your vitamins and graduating college is more disgraceful than defending arsonists and doing cocaine on the set of a television show, right?
How many of them do you get, champions, do you get up there saying to eat your vitamins and go to church?
Hulk Hogan is on national television 8 times a week telling everybody, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, believe in a big man upstairs, go to college and finish and get your education before you ever think of becoming a professional wrestler, and you're telling me that none of them do it? You don't watch it, that's how. You're passing judgment on something that you never watched before.
I have watched it. I think it's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace?
Yes.
It's a disgrace. I think your speech is a disgrace. I think you're a disgrace raising a kid, not letting him call up a radio station to be on the air in Long Island, to be a hero in his high school because he got his voice on the airwaves to express his opinion on something which champions say your prayers, eat your vitamins, go to college, believe in a big man upstairs while you're sitting back watching some phony lawyer defending some arsonist or rapist or murderer on TV, goes off the air, snorts his schnoz full of cocaine, then goes picks up some floozy outside the studio and spreads AIDS all around Hollywood.
I think you better calm down before you have a coronary.
I don't need to have a coronary, sweetheart. If I wanted a coronary, I'd hang out with your kid. Anybody that comes home to a woman like you that professes to watch L.A. Law, which is a show about lawyers in Los Angeles, which is a rat-infested, poverty-stricken urban reality with pimps and drug dealers and mudslides and earthquakes, and the whole damn state is going right into the ocean, and you rather not let him watch some big, strong, 300-pound guy that works out in the gym every day, says his prayers, eats his vitamins, eats healthy food.
All you want is quoting 1 or 2 wrestlers.
How many more you want me to quote?
Who spit, who act like animals.
Turn on the news, sweetheart. That's reality. Turn on the news. You got people being shot on the highways. You got people who are afraid to walk down the streets of their own neighborhood. And you're telling me that some guy that spits on somebody else in athletic competition is a disgrace? You ever watch football? I went to a hockey game last night. I actually played hockey for 5. I went to the wrestling matches and a hockey game broke out. Come on! And you won't let your kid call up? Why don't you let him call up? He watches it anyway. He knows the number of the show.
He had to use
He probably had pornography in his closet. You ever think of that? You're repressing emotions.
All right, listen, we got a broad here.
Throw her off the air.
Thanks for your
Throw
call.
this witch
Thanks for
off
coming on the air.
I hope somebody blows up your pumpkin on Halloween.
Well, that was pretty. Your veins, you got to calm down, Paulie. Your veins are popping out of your head.
A disgrace.
Well, you made some valid points there, and I definitely think you.
A disgrace, she says.
You showed her what the true story was. Anyone not being allowed to call this program, I don't see why. I mean, it's just a. Boy, it's very this tension. You can cut it here with a knife.
What's wrong with you, lady? Probably one of them,
She might start your fan club.
In my opinion, she's probably one of these, like women who believe in Muhammad and shoves their kids out the window and makes it on the news at night in that suicide pact. Muhammad's not a good God asking people to do that kind of thing.
Unbelievable.
I challenge her to come down to this station.
Yeah, well, I don't think
I'll show her what a disgrace professional wrestling can be.
I don't think that's happening, Paul.
We got some big brute of a broad out here hanging out with tooth swallower around her neck, holding a 9-foot salami.
It's my sister. She's not a big brute.
With a 9-foot salami?
And she's got a little club.
She has a club. I got a club for you, sweetheart. Go ahead.
Open the door for her, will you? Open the door.
She's coming in the studio.
Open the door.
Get out of here. We're on the air.
Clowning
around with a 9-foot salami.
I'm sure she wants to say
Sit back down in your chair. Clowning around with a 9-foot salami. Come here. I don't want to talk to you. Sit down over here.
Yeah, pull up a chair, will you? We're here at the last 15 minutes of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. What is that?
Well, this is digress to nonsense even quicker than I thought it
my
was.
9-foot salami.
That's your 9-foot. Do you realize that you're playing around with a 9-foot salami, which is a question I ask my girlfriend every Friday night?
So what?
Speechless.
You're very talkative.
She's a very big fan of yours, really.
Mr. Dangerously, I am speechless. I am your #1 fan.
Well, you have very good taste. Here, honey, we'll give you a picture. Hey!
I want a picture.
Don't you think the NWA sucks without Paulie Dangerously?
I think it stinks without Paulie Dangerously.
14-0. We're ahead. We're doing better than the Islanders' opponents this year.
That's right.
Joe Walton can pick his nose all he wants. Phil Simms can hang out in bars all he wants. Al Larbert can lose as many games as he wants. But Paulie Dangerously being outside the NWA is just killing that place, man.
And it shows. Just look at the shows that they've been running recently without the excitement.
You know what? I'm hearing a tinge of Roddy Piper in him.
I was too.
It's and by the way, for those of you who don't know, John's sister Donna is absolutely beautiful. Classic Italian beauty.
Thank you.
And John, I don't think I'm exaggerating one bit. I know you're biased. I'm not.
No, she's still a gorgeous woman.
And you're right. She spoke like that lady in My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I forget her name.
Yeah, you should have seen her when she lived here in Tennessee for 6 years with my nephew, and
she blended right in, didn't she?
She did not blend. She did not blend. Every time she go to the store, where are you? You're not from here, are you?
You're from North Tennessee.
And now she moved back to New York, and then she misses it here now more than ever. She just realizes how cool Tennessee is in comparison to, what Long Island is now and how congested it is. But anyway,
send my regards, please.
Oh, I certainly will. I'm sure she's gonna love the fact that we've reunited and doing this. That's cool. And getting to Paul, I mean, because you we haven't even gone into your career and stuff. I mean, this thing is just flying by, but we're going to bring you back, obviously, for future stuff. But Paul E. tried to do something with you at ECW.
Yeah, he did.
Why don't you let us know what that was?
Okay. What Paulie wanted to do with me was he wanted to give me a manager's gimmick, a New York mobster type thing.
Okay.
And, I mean, here he is.
What year? Do you remember the year?
No, I don't. I'm going to 93, 94, 95.
Yeah, he was just getting ECW really started Extreme in mid-'84 when he started to really transition it into what it became.
No, 94.
Yeah, 94, right.
I'm sorry, I thought you said
that's when he took the book from Eddie Gilbert.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just after that, it started because he needed a ring, so he rented my ring. And so anyway, the guys setting it, I'm going to try to give you the baby without the labor pains. So the guys who were setting up my ring, one of them was John Watson, who becomes Mikey Whipwreck.
Ah, yeah, okay.
So after they set up the ring, this is the first time we're doing this. I told the guys, just start working out, just go. I mean, I didn't feel we were in front of the smartest fans in the whole world, so I wasn't worried about exposing anything. So one of the guys, I'm not going to name him because he's really well known, goes, Sonny, you know better than this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. He moves. I'm like, guys, go right back. Paulie walks in with Joey Styles. So I asked Paulie if my guys could be used for the taping.
And that included Whipwreck.
And that's where he got the name. Paulie just comes up with the name Mikey Whipwreck. Yeah. What is a whipwreck? Just Paulie. So anyway, it was his first match. Kevin Sullivan throws a chair. Mikey doesn't even bother to put up a hand, nothing, just right off his head into the crowd. And Kevin afterwards said, you're allowed to block it a little bit. But anyway, so Paul took a liking to him. He likes anybody who's willing to do something like that. But so he spoke to me about doing a gimmick, a New York mobster as a manager. And so, I used to wear the double-breasted pinstripe suits and all of that. I kind of had the look. And,
you did.
And so he gave me a thing folded up. He's coaching me. God bless him. He tried so hard. And then it came time just to cut a promo. It was for a thing called Halloween Hell. It was one of his shows, Halloween. And all of a sudden, after work, getting coached by one of the best mic men in the business, you can't, other than Mr. Piper, who also
in the history of the business.
Yes. And as soon as I'm in front of that camera, I look over.
And you were cutting a promo that he wanted you to do.
Right. The TV camera was on. It was
with the mobster gimmick.
Correct. And it was just I forget who it was that I was even managing. But off to my left is Terry Funk, Taz, Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, the whole cast,
Yeah.
And everything just, my tongue was like, I don't know, 82 pounds, lost the New York accent altogether. I'm stammering. I'm Halloween Hell, and Paulie's like, what was that? What happened? Tried it a second time, no better. It just actually got a little bit worse because now I'm carrying that with me. And it's like, oh man. But again, I had the opportunity. Paulie was willing to give me the opportunity. So it's just that I couldn't execute. And I feel bad because I feel like I let Paul down more than I didn't seize the opportunity. I felt like I let him down because for Paul Dangerously, who has such a quick mind for wrestling, you remember the book he showed us with like 82,000 pages of angles and gimmicks. And, I mean, he was ridiculous. And I don't mean ridiculous as an object of ridicule.
Ridiculous smart, ridiculous genius is what he was.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
And, here he saw something. I let him down. I couldn't execute. Mr. McMahon saw some things I couldn't execute. I let him down. I don't know, but I was very fortunate that I was given these opportunities. So that would have been great. I just couldn't do it. And I would have preferred that to wrestling, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, listen, when you're trying to cut a promo, which you're already like nervous to begin with, and then at the corner of your eye, you see Funk and Sabu, Dreamer, and Taz, and all of these guys who all became these Hall of Fame, they're all legends, big time. And probably for that time period, some of the most exciting workers in the history of the business. Yeah. And here you are, like, just trying to, all right, who wouldn't get nervous?
I was trying not to overham it and do it. I started getting in my head too much,
Yeah, it happens, man.
And then you like look over and it's Terry Funk and it's like, what am I doing here? This is Terry Funk,
Right.
this is a guy that could cut a promo. If you asked him here, do me a favor, talk about this pen for 20 minutes. Okay, he'll go.
He could do anything. And yeah, crazy.
Tommy
Was
Dreamer
was Bubba Ray Dudley there?
No, he's off in the distance yet.
Yeah, still off in the distance, because I do want to touch upon him. And Marsh, why don't you come back for a second and let us know? I think we have 2 more clips. What do we have left?
We got the one from show 43. It's the one where Sonny engages with some callers.
Yeah,
I'll say.
They called you kind of a spineless cockroach or something, and then you wanted to address them, get them. And this is the same guy, Jim from Lindenhurst, and his friend Rocco, who we did that little angle with the fake mother. It's the same dudes. And what else do we got after that? What we got? One more after that, or is that this next one is the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah, because once we finish this next clip, then I want to talk to you about Bubba Ray Dudley. And I want to talk to you about that history and the show that we did October 22nd, 1993, and that backstory, because this is a dude who hates both of us.
Yes.
Right? And I want to get into that. And I also want to touch upon Herb Abrams for a second with you, and the fact that you got a chance to have dinner with Bruno Sammartino, because I know he was your idol. And then we'll wrap it up. And we're going to bring you back in the future, but we don't want this to turn into a 5-hour show today. Sure. We're having so much fun with it. So anyway, let's hear the last clip, and that is from what date, Marsh?
January 28th, 1990, show 43.
Yeah, and you were in the middle of, you weren't winning a lot of matches, and then all of a sudden you take a little offense to these 2 kids who call in.
I wonder why.
Jeez. He's almost like you take after Ric Flair a little bit there. Let's get on the phone. Jim from Lindenhurst and Rocco, I believe they didn't want to have it out with Broadway Live. Let's see what's going to transpire here, and just make sure that you monitor what these guys are going to say, because
keep it clean, boys.
Keep it clean, exactly.
How you doing, you spineless cockroach?
Hey, Jimmy, your mommy let you call?
She ain't home.
Oh, big bad Jim. Call when his mommy ain't home.
Well, I do have his address. We'll have to send a copy of the show.
You do have his address?
Yes.
You fool.
We'll send this.
You fool. You say something like that and I got your address?
We'll send a copy of the show to his mom.
What are you, brain
He's
damaged?
calling while she's not home. Go ahead, guys.
You might be brain damaged. I mean, look how bad you've been beat in the ring.
Bad I've been beaten? I've never been beaten so bad I couldn't come back.
Yeah,
Hey, John, what did Bigelow say after our match while he was trying to catch his breath to talk to you?
You got your butt kicked.
What butt kick? I walked out of the ring. I felt fine. Bigelow was winded. I got him a glass of water.
Yeah, but look how heavy he is.
Hey, that's not my fault. Diet.
Yeah, your friend Joe would know about it.
Hey.
I started that seafood diet this week. I see it and I eat it.
Yeah, like Jim Cornette says, he's on 2 diets. One don't give him enough to eat.
That's right.
Yeah, Sonny, you couldn't even beat S.D. Jones.
You're right, I couldn't. You're absolutely right. He beat me. But you told me one other wrestler with 8 months experience I couldn't beat. I've been on a roll. Like what date was that? Your buddy Chris Michaels, I took him down.
Oh, wow. An unheard name, really.
Hey, no problem. Don't forget, the middle of last spring, I was wrestling with a broken neck, pal. A broken neck. I was wrestling. When was the last time you went out with a cold?
All the time.
You always have a cold?
Well, anytime I do, I'm out. Nothing keeps me in.
Well, the bottom line here is that Broadway has only been wrestling for a short period of time, and he's made a lot of progress in that time he has wrestled. He's taken on guys like Bam Bam Bigelow and Tony Atlas and a number of others, national stars.
And tell them the news I told you.
Remember a year and a half ago, if you recall the career of Scott Steiner a year and a half ago was wrestling in opening events in different independent organizations, as is guys like Cactus Jack Manson and many others. You got to start in this business by persevering and taking your lumps initially. That only makes you a better wrestler in the future. So I have to commend Broadway Sonny Blaze for going in there each and every time and giving his all, and the progress he's made since I've known him. Seeing him in wrestling in the basement of Mark Tendler's wrestling school
on a concrete floor, buddy,
has been just very. I have to just commend you because you've been working hard. That's all.
Sonny, what does it feel like walking home with the loser's end of the paycheck almost every night?
You can cut this now. You can cut it now. I mean, it was just kind of they were young. kids that were kind of punks in a lot of ways, and
they were just having fun.
They were having fun, but they still like to twist and they still love to prank and to do this type of stuff. And the fact is that they still listen to this podcast after all these years. And I'm friends on Facebook with Rock and everything else, and a member of our Patreon community. And I thought they'd get a kick out of it. I thought you'd get a kick out of it to remember.
So the only thing they didn't say was Baba Booey.
Exactly right. No Baba Booey for sure.
Hey, but John, just going back to the Paulie gimmick with the mobster manager.
Yeah.
If I could have done that in front of that TV camera.
Right. It would have been a different story.
Because I'm listening to that going, that's what Paulie wanted.
Yeah.
You know?
And practice makes perfect, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you do it once, you do it twice, you get better, and you were kind of fired up that day in the studio. It was a work and all of that. You were just, you were working them, and but it was kind of, I wanted to play that just because of just the stuff that we had to endure while we were on the air too, because you never know who was going to call in. We had a lot of fun with at that time with this program.
It was a lot of fun, John.
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't too long after that you got hooked up with Mario Mancini, and he had integrated you in the WWF, and you started doing a lot of work for them. I mean, the array of talent that you worked with on television, in matches, and they, from what you were saying, I mean, I heard that other podcasts, is they were really trying to find some type of spot for you or team you up with somebody to elevate you a little bit, but it just never was in the cards for you.
It wasn't in the cards for me because of me, not because
right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's just but you did it. You were in there. I mean, but you gave it your shot. But sometimes it doesn't work out. But I was really impressed to hear those stories about how they were trying to find something good for you to do there.
They were, and even when Mr. McMahon had the WBF, the World Bodybuilding Federation, I worked with them. So here I am working with Dr. Fred Hatfield. He's known as Dr. Squat, Tom Platz, Gary Stridham. I'm working with these guys as well. So I had so many good opportunities with the World Wrestling Federation. And I appreciate it all. I really do. Every bit of it.
And tell us about Bruno. Because I know how important Bruno was. And when you finally got to meet him, I thought that was a really cool story because I heard you say it. And I think the people who listen to this podcast would appreciate it.
Well, first, I want to say the very first time I met Mr. Sammartino was, I believe it was called the San Gennaro in Sunnyside, Queens. Do you remember that?
I do remember that outdoor event, yeah.
You brought me to that to do a demonstration with Tony Atlas.
Right. I remember that, yeah.
Well, out of nowhere, I turn to my right. I just look, and I'm staring right into a cauliflower ear. And it's Mr. Sammartino.
Yeah.
And I went into the starstruck, couldn't even say hello. I had no breath. And he's introducing himself to me, and I'm like, Sonny, and he's like, nice to meet you, So anyway, we were walking back. A bunch of guys from the neighborhood, I'm going to call them, are sort of making sure Mr. Sammartino's not bothered.
Right.
And he was parked at the Wendy's.
Which used to be Sunnyside Gardens, I think. Was that
correct? Yep. And these two, you remember the little Italian ladies with the white hair? They always wore black.
Yes. Yes.
Well, two of them were walking by, and they said one of them said, that's that wrestling fella. And so he stops and he starts talking Italian, and all of you guys kept walking. So I got to walk along with Mr. Sammartino.
Yeah.
When he got done talking.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, look, Sonny, stay away from the drugs. You don't need to do the steroids. All of the wonderful things you'd expect Mr. Sammartino to say, but he didn't have to say anything, and wishing me good luck with my career and, just work hard, stay safe, keep your nose clean, stuff Mr. Sammartino would say. Now, Herb, my favorite match that I have ever had was my first match for Herb Abrams in the
And
UW.
he rented your ring too? Is that how that?
Correct.
And you worked on his shows on TV?
Yep. I was the first match. It was Cowboy Bob Orton and I. And Cowboy Bob Orton was managed by John Tolis, the Golden Greek. So Mr. Sammartino, and I forget the other announcer's name.
Craig DeGeorge, was that him?
It might have.
Yeah, who did commentary with Herb?
Yeah, the young guy.
Yeah, Craig DeGeorge, I believe, was the guy's name.
Okay, and Mr. Sammartino did color.
Color, yeah.
And so he had play-by-play color. So I worked with Cowboy Bob Orton. I'm wrestling a legend. There's a legend managing him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm getting to work with both of these guys. Miss Bob Orton gave me quite a bit of the match. Of course, when I started losing the crowd, he took it back. But at the end of the match, he takes me and he launches me between the top and middle rope. Just, I have no control over my body. I'm airborne. And I kick Mr. Sammartino right in the head.
Ooh.
And his headset goes flying off. Now he's helping me up. And Cowboy Bob Orton goes to the top rope like he's going to jump down on me. So then he's standing over me like to protect me as he's helping me up. And I have all this on VHS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was just wonderful. And yes, I did have the opportunity to have dinner with Mr. Sammartino. And a big thing, it's something Mr. Sammartino told me that never escaped me was, remember that there's a kid that could be meeting you for the first time. And when they come over, you don't want them to see you drinking. You know, make sure that you're not drinking and stuff like that, because you want to set an example for young people. So he took his image as Bruno Sammartino very, very seriously.
He certainly did.
And, you know, he was like a surrogate father to me growing up, because I didn't meet my father till I was 30. So those interviews, Mr. Sammartino was my de facto father. You know, I'm listening, I'm hanging on every word he says. And so to get to eat with him, to get to talk with him, you know, it really was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
If nothing else, everything in wrestling was worth it because of that one thing. I got to meet Mr. Sammartino. And remember, he signed his book for me. Mm-hmm. And remember that I had a poster that I used to take to the barbershop when I was a kid so I could get my hair cut like Mr. Sammartino. And he signed, you told me to bring that with me, and he signed it, you know, to Sonny, best wishes, Bruno Sammartino. And my gosh, talking about it, I feel the adrenaline pumping.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you what about yourself. I mean, you've always been so respectful. You've always, especially when it's Mr. McMahon or Mr. Sammartino or Mr. Patera. I mean, the respect that you've had for people in the business and people throughout your life, that's the one indelible thing that I'll always remember about you, is how respectful you have always been to anyone who you're associated with. Never had a bad thing to say about anybody.
Well, thank you very much, John. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and we're going to end actually on this note, because we do have, I wanted to talk to you about Bubba Ray and all of that stuff, but that's, I want to end on a positive note with you, because I want to bring you back.
Okay.
Because we need to address the reason why Bubba Ray Dudley hates you and hates me, and maybe there could be some answers on what happened on October 22nd, 1993. But we're going to leave that, and we're going to bring you back next month for a go-around at this.
October, I don't know what date that is.
Well, October 22nd, 1993, Ramada Hotel, International Wrestling.
Oh, okay.
You ran the locker room.
Yep.
There was a situation with him who I believe you said might have had his very first match that night in New York.
That was his first match.
Yeah. And we have video of that, which we'll include in the YouTube version of the podcast. But I want to dive deep into it, because to this day, I'm not allowed to go near him. And we all know what type of guy he is. So anyway, I'm going to address that with you on the next time you're here.
I would love to.
And then we'll get into some Herb Abrams stories too, because I know that's some funny stuff.
Well, we got a few.
We do have a few, and we'll bring you back if you don't mind indulging us to come back again in the future.
Indulge you, it'd be my pleasure.
Because
Thank you so much.
Because the run of this program also, Pro Wrestling Spotlight really went off the air in end of January 1995. It disappeared, and when that happens, because what we do, Sonny, is we go back 30 years to the week and we cover the show we did 30 years ago. This is a bonus episode, so this is kind of a bonus thing for the listeners. So once we start the run again, which will be, in April of 2025, that's what or maybe sooner, because I went off the air for 8 months or whatever. But once we start going back to review the beginning, I'm going to talk to you about coming on a regular basis to review the shows in real time as we started.
I would enjoy that very much.
It would be fun to go back in history and kind of reunite in a way that it will be pretty cool for everybody who listens to this show.
John, as I get older, of course, I have more history than future. You know that.
Yeah.
And these moments that brought me such pleasure and so much joy are so fun to relive. I really, I didn't become the next Ric Flair. But that's okay. The world is only ready for one Ric Flair. I was the best Sonny Blaze I could be. Somebody else might have been able to pull it off a little better, from Paul or from Mr. McMahon, but I did the best I could.
Yes, you did. And you're down in Florida now enjoying life.
Yeah, I am. I'm having life. You remember, I'm a man of faith. I'm
yes,
Catholic,
very much so. Very much so.
So that never lets me down, no matter where I go.
Exactly. Well, it's been our pleasure to have you here today, and you'll be hearing from us in the near future. As soon as Marsh gets the show edited, we'll get it out to you before the public sees it and all of that. So, but I think people are going to dig this show. People are going to really enjoy us reminiscing, and we're going to do it again because we have a lot of other stories to talk about.
Oh God, we got a ton. I mean, now that I'm hearing them, it's like, oh yeah, oh wait, yeah, oh
yeah. Right.
And by the way, I want to thank Marsh very much for.
Yeah, Marsh, come on back here, man.
Marsh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you, and thank you for taking care of the show today.
Oh, dude, not a problem. It's not a surprise getting to meet you even in this. Why John kept you around for so long in the original, the beginning. I think you're a joy to be around and work with for sure.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I kept interrupting his show, so he couldn't edit it out.
Yeah, you can't cut it. You couldn't cut it. It's live.
No, we had a lot to cover. We covered a lot of ground here today, and I knew it would be kind of long, but like you said, I mean, it's like we have more stories to talk about.
We do,
and we'll do that. We'll do that next month sometime.
And we'll clarify the
Bubba Ray. Yeah, we have a lot of Herb Abrams. We got stuff. Yeah. We got stuff to discuss. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to do that with you. And Sonny Blaze, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
We'll be talking to you soon.
You got it.
All right.
Stay in touch, my friend.
Wow, that was amazing, man.
So good. It was, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. So I just kind of going with all the interviews was kind of like, let's see how it plays out. This was so fun. Like, I feel it in my face from laughing so much. I wasn't even on screen with you guys, and I just couldn't stop laughing at so much that was going on.
No, he's such a great guy. And I just couldn't end on a downer with Bubba Ray and those stories, because there is more to come. I mean, and I think people who listen to this podcast will dig the fact that we'll bring them back on to talk about more of those early days with Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
I think so too. There's more time and a lot more stories. So
there is.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I know that you're working hard on your end, and I want to thank you for everything. And this show, I think we're going to air probably the first week of April. I think that's when this will come out, because we got so much going on. We all have so much going on right now. It's crazy. Yeah. I'm listening. I got the Gibby podcast back, and you got WrestleMania. You got the stuff you're doing with Medusa. It's nuts. Things are, but it's good. It's good to be busy.
It is. It's feeling like things are picking up in a way that feels really good.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. So, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, social media. And, man, I want to thank you again for everything you do.
Yeah, you can find me at Ref Marsh on Twitter, at MarshRef on Instagram. Hit me up. I'm on Facebook too. Now I think about it, the listeners that have reached out to me direct has been through Facebook, so that's Ref Marsh as well. And yeah, when I see it, I answer it, and I'm readily available. So
awesome,
anytime.
Awesome. Well, if you want to get a hold of me, just find me at linktree.com/John Arezzi. That's where you can find all my socials, including the private groups and the public groups we have on Facebook. And I want to personally thank, once again, Al Schaefer, Broadway Sonny Blaze, for our reunion today. And there'll be more to come to reminisce. That'll wrap up this edition of John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Don't forget to check out the sister podcast, Matt Memories from Madison Square Garden. Next episode is available, coming out by the time this show, you hear this one, it'll be out covering the March 26, 1973 show at the Garden. And that show is co-hosted by Tim Poutre, written and researched by Richie Garcia. I want to thank our producer and creative director, Marsh. And I want to thank our Patreon executive producers, Anthony Pyrus and Joe Holloway, and all the patrons for your support, helping with the production costs for this show. Until next week, when we relive more history with you, this is John Arezzi for the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.